And we're live. Well, good morning, everybody, or afternoon, or wherever you might happen to be. It's Josh here, Red Fury Books. I'm excited this morning for Brunch and Book Talk, episode number 4. I have a really fun panel of booktubers here, and we're just going to talk about books and see where the conversation goes. I have, of course, to my left, right, this way, Andrew from Andrew's Wizardly Reads. We have Ben from Books by Benghis Khan, and right down here we have Theo from Rekindled Reader. So I'm just going to go across the panel here and ask them what I ask everybody at the beginning of these. Since it is Brunch and Book Talk, start with you, Andrew. What are you reading and what are you drinking this morning?
Reading is Blood Mage by Stephen Aryan and The Price of Power by Michael McKell. And then drinking is I've got a nice cool bottle of water and then some Starbies.
Nice. Yeah, I saw you talking about Stephen Aryan on your TBR the other day. So
yeah.
We'll talk about we'll talk about your TBR in a little bit because you blow me away how much you read.
Yep.
So let's circle down to Ben. Ben, what are you reading right now? What are you drinking this morning?
I didn't come prepared, so I'm reading the sequel to this book, Becoming a Druid by Mike Mullman. It's Sins and Sorrows, which is a short story and novella like interlude between books 1 and 2. So I'll probably hit book 2, Speak with Elders. Oh, amazing naked hardbacks, by the way. Love this. I'll probably hit Speak with Elders next month to finish out the 3 books that he's published so far. So yeah, I think I saw Andrew reading that recently too, as well. Sins and Sorrows. So
read it this week.
That's I'm almost done with that. I'm in the last novella in there. It's been great. And I am like Andrew doing some ice water here. It's 11 a.m. We're going on the afternoon here on the East Coast, and I've already had a nice big cup of coffee this morning, so that was good.
Some high quality H2O.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, Joe Byrne here, who has mimosas. That's my hope, Joe. At some point in one of these live streams, someone's going to have the mimosas going. So at some point, stay tuned. Check out the next episode. Maybe that will be somebody. But Ben, those naked hardcovers, the Mullman books are amazing. Because I know you just sent one to me, and I'm looking forward to reading the first one in that series. So, awesome. Well, let's swing it on over to Theo. He's not at 11 a.m. He's at 8 a.m. Vancouver time.
I'm a mimosa guy, but it's too early for me because it's 8 a.m. here. So I have a coffee, and then I also have some ice water like a nerd. But yeah, I'm still waking up, but I'm here. But if it was like a couple hours later, I would have had the mimosa, I promise. Yeah.
At some point, it's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely.
As for me, this is my excuse to make my French press, which is
I love
my
French
favorite.
press.
So I just love making a French press. And but I am currently reading Tolkien, the Book of Lost Tales Part 2. I'll probably finish that today. I'm slowly making my way through the 12-volume History of Middle-earth. So that's going to be a multi-year project because they are quite dry, so I can't read a whole lot of them in a row. So hoping to knock out 4 of them this year. But all right, well, I want to circle back because Andrew, I just watched your video of your TBR, and listen, I think I read 124 books last year. I'm probably on pace to I think I'm on pace for 98, 99 this year. I'm a little lower. That's like a lot of books, and then. That's like 8 books a month, I think. And then Andrew, your TBR has 13 this month. So how do you do it?
A lot of that is audio. And frankly, I don't go anywhere. So I've got 2 small kids that make going outside and doing activity both fun and terrifying at the same time, because one's 1 and he'll just go. And then my 3-year-old will then go the other direction and she's fast. So it makes it a nightmare. So I just stay home. And read. That's pretty much all I do. I read, make YouTube videos, work, raise kids, and then occasionally watch home renovation shows.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm envious of that because like all of us, I think I've said before, last year my TBR started the year. I got a big spreadsheet of 400 books, and then I read 125 books, and at the end of the year it was at 500 books.
Yes.
Yep.
Because you keep
yes.
discovering, especially on
That happens.
BookTube, you know, I watch like you three guys talk about books, and then, oh, that sounds like a good one. And I jot it down and I add it to the list. And then before you know it, it's just, I read eight a month and I add 20 to the list.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at 4 that just Theo added. I've got Shogun right here, and then I've got Taipan, Gaijin, and then King Rat. I just bought them all.
Nice.
The struggle is real though with TBRs as just like we get further down the booktube, you know, it just never ending horde of great recommendations and things people are reading and loving. But even before booktube, like when I got really into adult fantasy about 5 years ago, and I was reading some Sanderson and Dresden Files, I'm like, oh my God, I just want to try all the popular things in the modern like adult fantasy genre. And I made a Barnes & Noble run, and that was probably in 2018. And I got a lot of things because I signed up for a membership and you could get a discount. And I was just getting everything. I was getting all the Red Rising books, all the Green Buns, well, the first 2 Green Bun Saga books that were out, the Lies of Lockamore, Gentleman Bastard series, and Lycanius, like I was, and John Gwynn stuff, and I was just hoarding all of this. And
the BookTube starter set.
Yeah.
Oh right. yeah. I've just recently gotten to some of those that I bought in 2018.
Yep.
Like I just read the Greenbone Saga, and I've had no, small, dearth of things that I've been loving, and so it's just continually adding and adding. I'm still sitting on the Lycanius books that I got 5 years ago, and really just need to find some time for those. But things that I've been on my TBR for years, I finally got to recently, like Live Ship Traders, Greenbone Saga, and they've been great. But trying to fit in like those old priority series and these new shiny toys come along, it is so overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
Sure is.
I had to start a separate tab on that spreadsheet of my physical TBR versus the ones I want to buy, just because it got so unwieldy. I used to just keep like a nice stack, and then like it become too big, so then I have a shelf. I have this weird thing where I don't put books on my bookshelf unless I've read them.
I couldn't do that.
So I have like I have separate shelves in different rooms, like in closets of books I haven't read yet. And then like I have my Malazan stack for when I decide to come back to that series. And it's just, it's overwhelming sometimes.
Literally 30 minutes ago, I was looking up and measuring my walls in this space for upgrading my shelves for more space.
Yeah, I wish I'm out of space here, and I just have 3 shelves, and I wish I could just go all around this room. But there's other old furniture in here that people would not be happy if I got rid of. So that's that. I'm just stacking them up in a closet, and they're overflowing in there now.
I have 7 shelves in here.
Jeez.
But going to used bookstores is so much fun. Like I've been trying to avoid buying too many new ones now because I have so many, but just dropping into used bookstores nearby or when I'm traveling, you see all sorts of good stuff. Like I've been slowly accumulating all of David Gemmell's books, and I've only read 2, but I've been just knowing after reading Legend, just knowing that even before reading Legend, I was like, I think this guy's going to be for me.
Yeah.
And I just, at every used bookstore, seeing like, oh, they got one that I don't have. And I almost I have like 30 of them, almost have the full set in MMPB.
Wow.
I think I've got all of Gemmell now. I think there might be 1 or 2 that I still need to buy.
Do you have them all in hardcover? Because you have a lot of hardcovers. I've seen those in your,
I've got
you have hardcover. Oh man.
Yeah.
I've got Sword in the Storm. I've got Midnight Falcon.
Where did you get those?
I got these offline.
Oh, nice.
And then this one was a surprise because it's
woo nice.
So,
Regante series. I saw the Brothers Gwyn really talking up the Regante series, but like, oh man, I got to try to finish up more of Draenei before going into the other sub-series. But I can't wait because I saw Theo enjoy the Dress prequel. I really got to continue in that because I started that last year and really loved Dress as a character. So
you're talking about Dress the Legend?
I'm
I was mixed on Dress
him.
the Legend. I was really mixed on it.
Like the first Chronicles of Dress? Is that?
Yeah.
That one was all right. I liked it more just because I love Dress. But as on its own, I don't know if anything's going to live up to Legend, honestly.
There are a
It's
few
not gonna
books
be
that
good.
really match Legend.
In the
Waylander will
Draenei?
match Legend. Quest for Heroes will match Legend.
Ooh.
Oh shit. Okay.
Um,
I have
So
Waylander
the-
on the shelf. That's my next
Nice.
one.
Has
Waylander's
anybody
really
heard
cool.
of the John Shano series or trilogy?
Yeah,
or
I've got
what-
those.
I really want to read that. Those are different. Like if you don't want to like commit to a whole other world or series, whatever, those ones are pretty good. They're very different, and I think they're like short. Like the series is not that long.
People seem to love the ancient Greek Trojan War
The
series.
Troy
too.
one, right?
Troy?
Yeah, I have some of those. I think I have
Ooh,
2 out of 3. Yeah.
there's John
Oh,
Shano.
shit. That's awesome.
Nice.
I've got the Troy ones on audio. I don't have those
Nice.
physically. So I think I'm
Legend.
good.
This is a nice crew for discussing Gemmell, since we've all read Legend and Gemmell. But that book
Yeah.
really surprised me, 'cause I didn't know what to expect from 1980s debut author. And
Surprised me too.
the beginning of that book, I'm like, okay, this is pretty
I thought
clunky.
I was
This is
gonna
kind of
hate
what this is kind of what I was expecting
Yeah.
from 1980s fantasy by a debut writer. And then when Druss came onto the page, it just blew me away. And the
Yeah.
fortress of Dras Delnoch, this 6-tiered fortress that is the last stand before this whole nation gets overrun. I mean, the storytelling in that slim book was so utterly epic and heroic. The way that Druss has to train up the defenders throughout, because they have not faced anything like this before, and they have kind of a defeatist attitude. Like, oh my god, that whole defense arc was so incredible and
Amazing.
so gritty and so high stakes. And then to bring in other philosophical things, like with the 30 and almost like this Eastern religion inspired kind of monk group who are willing to sacrifice themselves as they usually do before they have one member like live on to renew their group. Like,
Yeah.
there was so much deep and interesting world building going on. I loved
It's definitely interesting because Legend is chronologically 9th in the series, so it's very late in the game. But the 30 is a prevailing theme throughout all of Draenei. The 30 will keep popping back up, and it's funny because even though Legend is so loved, it is a rougher book to read. Like structurally, it's very fast. There's a couple things where you just get whiplash with like how quick some things will move.
You just have to accept it. You're like, okay, this is happening now, I guess. Yeah.
But with each subsequent release that he did, you can see his craft getting a little better and a little better and a little better. Gemmell's one of those rare authors where you can literally read his breadth of work and just watch him grow.
it.
Oh, that's
Ooh.
good to know.
Awesome.
I've kind of experienced that with Gwyn too. Like he was good in Malice, but then like every book is better and better, and you're like, wow, this is cool. Legend blew me away too and I think you guys have maybe seen my review and stuff, but I was just gushing about the metaphor and stuff, and just knowing that he was facing death and he was wondering if he was going to have this cancer ordeal or not or whatever. And even like things like the levels of Dras Delnoch, right? You have like exaltation, then you have despair, then you have like those are kind of the levels that he might have been going through dealing with this, right? You're fine one day, you're happy, everything's fine, then it's all of a sudden like, oh my god, what's going to happen? And then I can't remember, there's like a renewed hope, I think. Then there's these are names of each of the walls that are called something different, but they translate to these words. And then there's renewed hope or something, and then there's serenity, and then there's death, right? So it's like, do you get to that point? Like there was so much heavy themes and just metaphor woven
And
through this whole thing.
emotional writing. Yeah.
And I literally said in my Goodreads review that it's rare that I'll laugh out loud on a page. It didn't happen often with this book. It's not like a funny book, but there were some quips and some dialogue. And then I was almost in tears the next page. I was like, I couldn't handle it. It was crazy. So amazing.
And he gave more depth to the antagonist. I can't remember what the group is who is invading.
Nadir.
The Nadir leader ended up getting some major depth and surprising characterization, where he respected Druss and didn't want people on his side doing dishonorable things. I really
well, I don't want to spoil stuff, but yeah, it's very very cool.
Oh, now Andrew's getting me excited to keep going with Gemmell. I gotta do it. The problem is, it's just like I have literally hundreds of things that I'm excited to try.
Yep.
And so I pick something else up, and then I'm sucked into a new series. And now I like closing out series, and I like staying in one world at a time.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I'm the same way. I've struggled this year because I've tried to do the spreading things out, you know,
Me too.
one a month, and then this one, and some are overlapping and everything. And I think Alan said it best. He said sometimes buddy reads will be the death of us all because we kind of overschedule ourselves too much, and there's not enough room for just the spontaneity of what we want to read. That's why I know personally I'm kind of, as much as I've loved the buddy reads I've done, like after next month I don't have any 100% scheduled, and I can't wait. Like next month I'm going to read Hyperion, and I haven't read. I've been wanting to read Hyperion for like several years, and I haven't gotten to it yet.
Alex bought me a Hyperion when I hit 2,500 subs, and I still haven't read it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I read this
in
next month, 2010. Sure. I borrowed a friend's copy when I was actually like teaching abroad, volunteering, and they had it there, and I read it and really liked it. But I never had my own copy until I just got one from Book Outlet recently.
Nice.
And it's slimmer than I remembered. It's not a chunker, and it's kind of like a collection of short stories, Canterbury Tales style. So I definitely want to give that a reread because I barely remember it at this point.
Yeah, I have the omnibus, so the first 2 books, and I'll probably read them both next month. I kind of miss doing that, you know. That's why I'm doing the Hobb, the Soldier's Son read with a lot of people.
How is that?
Scott Derry. I would say it's out of the 6 Robin Hobb series. For me, it's firmly 6th after 2 books, but it's still pretty good. The writing is incredible. My biggest issue is I don't really like the narrator, and it's kind of tough. It took me, because I just finished book 2 last night. It took me until page 700 of the second book for me to care about the main character. So it's not her best work, but it's still Hobb. The writing is just ridiculously good.
Yeah.
And I dare say it's faster paced. What's that?
Have you read Janie Wirtz yet?
Well, I just read, we kind of talked about this a little bit the other day. I read Daughter of the Empire last month. Blew me away. Ooh. So good. That and Lines of Al Rassan are like fighting each other for my book of the month for last month. But I'm starting Servant probably tomorrow. I'll probably start that one tomorrow or Monday. But yeah, I love Hobb, but Soldier's Son's not been my favorite. But I kind of staggered reading that. Like I waited till the end of the month to read the second one, so I can kind of just start next month and read that one pretty close to the second book and get them done. But
yeah, I've always been a binger, and I know for me, I get more out of the experience if I am immersed in just that one world and storyline and characters than little details usually don't flee my memory if I'm just reading books back to back. And I've just always found I have the richest experience with series if I kind of read a lot of them together or all of them together. And before BookTube, for 6 months straight, I was just reading Malazan books with Erickson and Esselmont, and it was nice. I wasn't worried about reading a variety of stuff and just sat with those for 6 months, basically, and nothing else. Or The Wheel of Time for just 3 months straight. And I definitely don't feel like I can do that as much now that and when I do wrap ups, I want to talk about a variety of things and be able to hit different things on the TBR.
To not bore people.
Every month I've got about 10 different series on the go.
Yeah, this is not an issue for you.
I'm a little ADD.
Oh, it's an issue. I just had to restart a series because I remembered the characters. I just didn't remember how they fit together. So
I was wondering about that with you when you're doing so many different authors and series all close together. Does it make it hard to keep everything straight and
you can.
It's like if
it's all
maybe
fantasy,
harder to see,
right?
Yeah.
I do rare historical fiction. I do some YA. I'm starting to get into graphic novels. I just started Saga, which is so good. Saga's amazing. And then I do sci-fi as well. I do superhero. I do a lot of self-pub. This is all self-pub. So I can keep it kind of fresh, but yeah, it's mostly fantasy.
Theo, I just noticed this one in the chat. Kind of
Yeah, I saw that
missed
too.
over it. I'll say that I finished it and I loved it. I mean, I'm immediately a GGK fan. I have 2 more on the shelf. I have Tigana and Song for Our Bond. Hopefully, I'll get to one of those pretty soon. But I loved it.
I
Where are
DNF
you in reading
Tigana.
it, Theo?
So I own Tigana, and I started Lions of Alrasan, a little while ago, and I think I'm DNFing it, and I think that'll. And I know Mac's probably pissed, because he really wanted me to enjoy GGK, but I think I'm gonna get back to it. I think for me it was a little bit of a mood thing. A lot's been happening with me lately, and I'm struggling to find the right things: medical stuff, family stuff, work stuff. It's a little bit of a me thing right now, but also stylistically, the prose is beautiful, but the writing style took me a while to gel with, and just I think the setting, and I don't know, I just something isn't working, and I can't quite put my finger on it. And I don't want to say it's a DNF on GGK, but for now I think I'm putting Lions down, and I'm laughing inside because Josh, you and I we have overlapped on Gemmell, on McCammon. We're like in love with the same books. I'm loving Hobb.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get back into Live Ship soon, and but this one and Shogun, like I put both of those down, and Shogun I was like spearheading, and I sent Andrew Shogun because I'm like, fuck yeah, let's read. And I just couldn't get in the mood with that one. And that one I think was the commitment of the size. It was the historical fiction. I kind of was not feeling it, even though I'm a huge historical fiction fan. I know it's annoying for me because I know I want to get back to these books, but I want to read them with people. When else am I going to, what better time to read them than now with you folks, right?
Sure.
But I just can't. I have to. So I picked up, I forgot to mention what I was reading. I picked up A Feast for Crows because I need to continue with that. And I'm loving it. Like I'm in the mood for that.
Nice.
It's just a mood thing. So Mac, I'm sorry. I put it down for now. Don't hate me.
No, it's
I'm
okay. You were, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the not right now. I mean, it's one of those
Yeah.
I like to embrace that idea rather than, in fact, I think I changed it on my Goodreads profile. I got rid of the DNF and changed it all to not right now.
So I put I think it's Andrew's, the NFN or whatever.
NFN, not for now.
I put mine, my shelf has always been DNF or standby. Like I'm just putting it down for now, basically.
Yeah.
Never say never, obviously, but
Yeah, I ended up DNFing Tigana, but on GGK, I do want to read his Under Heaven and River of Stars duology because it's Asian inspired.
Right.
And I love Asian stuff. So
yeah,
I think I'll get back to GGK, but I've also heard about, Lions, and I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So I heard, I was a little bit bored, to be honest, too, but I think that was a mood thing because I just wasn't in the mood to have fun. And it's crazy because at the beginning of this book, for the first few chapters, some crazy stuff happens, and you're like, oh my God, like what's going on? Alex, tall guy, said, if you're not vibing it with the first bit, it doesn't really change stylistically, or nothing's gonna knock your socks off. Like maybe just put it down for now. I think you're gonna force yourself to go through it, and that's probably not what we want. So
no, I feel you on being in a certain mood, because I've been reading Song of Ice and Fire around the same time as you and the big read along, and it has such a distinctive, unique feel to the read. Like it feels huge in scope and expansive with the history, the lore, the world building in the present day, and all the political things going on everywhere. But the vivid characters, the dialogue is usually like a mix of really heavy and emotional and serious with amazing humor and wit at the same time.
Yeah,
wisdom and philosophical insights, just mysteries that are intriguing all over the place. Just really lots of different thematic resonances going on in every book, and they are so immersive.
It's
and
crazy.
I can easily see why you were just like not in the mood to bounce into like other authors' worlds and plots when you're in the middle of this one.
And you know what's weird? I thought about that, Ben, too. I thought maybe it's because I'm already invested in the world. I'm already immersed. Maybe like that's why I'm right back into it. But it's not even that, because the prologue of A Feast for Crows follows people you don't even know. You're kind of in a different place.
And
I have no idea what they're talking about. at the very beginning, and I'm immediately like sucked right back in stylistically with the prose, the descriptions, his writing. I was simply just in the mood for something like that. And it's hard. It just scratched an itch that I didn't really know that I had. I'm glad I found something that I'm enjoying right now. Because I said it's been weird for me lately. So I'm in a bit of a slump, but this is working. So
Hey,
Slumps
whatever's
happen,
working.
though. You got to embrace the slump.
Yeah, sure. Hey, yeah, Scott stole my answer to your question about live ship being the best of Hobb. I would agree. It's my third favorite, but I think all three of those series are S tier. I know Andrew doesn't agree, but he's wrong.
But I like Hobb. I love those first 9 books. I don't like Scott's gonna get mad. I don't like the last 7. But my favorite.
7.
I don't like the last 7.
Oh my god. Okay.
Would
you say you're a Hobb fan?
That's from a. It's not the writing that I don't like. It's the tropes and the structure to get to where we're getting, and the themes that are used within that I don't like. But for me, Life of Traders was overlong. Book 2 took 450 pages to do anything.
Oh god.
Yeah, it's deliberately paced, but Live Ship just worked for me just on every level. Like I had no complaints by the end. There wasn't a chunk that I would have wanted to be taken out of it. And I just recently finished it and just thought it was a masterpiece of a trilogy. And book 1 definitely it's a very slow build at the beginning to start things off and to get the inciting incidents kind of happening. And I wasn't totally hooked until like halfway through book 1, but the rest of the series I was just gripped. So it just totally worked for me. And right now I just finished Fool's Errand, and so far Live Ship and Tawny Man, I'm much more invested than I was just from Farseer.
I love Tawny Man. I will die on the hill that Tawny Man is peak Hobb.
I won't argue with that, even though I do like Fitz and the Fool a little bit more. But Tawny Man,
I like the first book. I thought the first book was really good. The other 2 didn't vibe with me.
Yeah. Get caught up in the chat here. Some lions. Oh, Christopher's going to be reading that this month.
Nice.
Yeah.
Theo, have you read Fire and Blood, or do you have Fire and Blood? Because
so I just bought Fire and Blood. They're sitting behind me. Fire and Blood and that little night book. What is that one called? 7 Nights or something?
Oh, Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Yeah.
Yes, I bought that because you talked about it.
Yeah.
So I do have those. So I
different kinds of Martin stories. Yeah.
Do you recommend?
Oh man, you could do them at any point. You could do them.
Okay.
I did Fire and Blood after book 3, or was it after book 2? I don't remember, but it is just like George Martin's like personality just distilled into all these gory historical details. Like you don't even have to read it all the way through. It's not that kind of book where you can read a chunk and it's like a second portion of the history. It covers like one king's reign, and then set it down for later. And you could do it in pieces. You could do it in pieces, and that would totally work.
Okay.
I need to get back to Song of Ice and Fire.
These stories you could fit in anywhere as well, and they're just a very different kind of style. It's so cool that we have all these different styles in A Song of Ice and Fire. Yeah. So if you're feeling like you're just wanting more of that world and Martin style, like those books too, you can dive in bits and pieces.
I'm savoring the end of it, right? Like once I finish Feast, I'm going to be worried about ending, so I might go back and read some of those and then dance later. So yeah, cool. That's good to know.
Hey Ben, what's the difference between the only 2 I haven't read of his in Westeros is Fire and Blood, and then there's the World of.
Oh yeah.
I don't have that one. So Fire and Blood is a complete prose history, although this edition has like 100 amazing black and white illustrations that added a lot to the experience. So like this is a nice black and white illustrated edition, but it's a giant kind of prose history of the Targaryen rulers of Westeros. So it takes you through Aegon's conquest of like coming over and starting to rule over Westeros, and then all of the like details of what his rule was like and the succession after that. Not even the whole way through. This is just the first half of the Targaryen history. So he thinks like if he has time at some point he'll write volume 2 of this. But this takes you through a lot, and you get to see all of this amazing backstory of King's Landing forming from like a small riverside village to like what it became later. And
Cool.
just all these cool things that the different rulers were doing. Some of them very competent kings, others extremely incompetent and horrible people. So you just get it all, and it was so engaging as a fictional history book. I thought
That's what I've heard.
going to hate it. I thought I was
Yeah.
going to like, because I don't really love normal history books. They're too dry for me. But this one, I shouldn't have worried, because just like the specificity and the of all the amazingly like original creative details that Martin came up with here was just so engaging. So yeah, it's a history basically from the perspective of certain like in-world historians, and you get different ones writing different chunks. But
Yeah,
that's what that is. I don't know what the world book is.
Yeah, because I have it. I'm just pulling it up on my wish list real quick. It's The World of Ice and Fire, and I had heard there was some overlap.
Yeah,
I
that's
guess
what
it's one of those, like, I don't
bought it.
know. Yeah, I don't
but I
know which
didn't
one
because of
to
that.
read first, because I have Fire and Blood in there.
I think Scott answered us. It looks like it's not
Oh,
written by him, but it's based on his notes.
okay, here we go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I heard that there was a lot of overlap, so I bought
Gotcha.
the proper book that we're talking about, Fire and Blood.
Okay.
There is The World of Ice and Fire, that big kind of illustrated one.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think
I
so.
heard
Yeah.
that was a lot of overlap and a bit of a truncated version of Fire and Blood with
Okay.
like added.
Oh wait,
stuff
no,
and notes.
you're actually thinking of this one, which I got recently on
giant
Book
one?
Outlet. So this is the
That one.
Rise of the Dragon.
Okay,
So
that's
this
what
No,
I'm
that's a
talking
different
This
one.
is the
Yeah.
condensed version of the Fire and Blood text.
about. Okay, that's what I was.
with
I didn't buy that
added-
for that reason.
with added color illustration.
yeah,
with new
and apparently
color-
they're
color.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they are for sure.
Okay, so I
So-
think Scott nailed it there. There's two of them. So there's that one, and then the other one's The
Oh,
World
yeah.
of Ice and Fire, and it's just
Okay.
encyclopedias.
Yeah, super cool.
Okay.
So like
Good
if
to
you just
know.
want more of
Thanks,
the lore
Scott.
and world building, I think you go to that World of Ice and Fire, and I will probably do that because I've been loving this so much. And once I finish Dance with Dragons and the second two short novellas, I will probably be missing the world. So
Yeah.
Just to circle back to GGK real quick, Mac had recommended Song for Arbonne as the entry point. And actually, I know Bridger's video, Library Ladder, if you saw that when he talked about GGK, that was his recommendation for an entry point too. So,
Maybe I'll try that. I appreciate that comment. Maybe I'll try that. Interesting.
Well, I know Jimmy read it earlier this year and raved about it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That might suit my vibe sooner than Lions might. So
But
I feel-
yeah, go with the mood. It was so great to see Josh DNF Memories of Ice, or like Not For Now It.
Yeah.
Because like it just wasn't working for you in that moment, and
Yeah.
there might be a better time to come
Yeah.
upon that. But when you said that you might be getting rid of all of your trade paperbacks,
Yeah.
like a lot of these are not easy to get. I was like, oh no, like you might end
Yeah.
up coming back to the series. Don't just get rid of the trade paperback set.
I got people message me 2 different messages, like lots of them. Number one were like, hey, can I buy your trade paperbacks? Or the opposite was like, hold on to those. You may change
Yeah.
your mind. But I mean, I can say I already know I'm going to come back to it.
If you like
was
hardcovers,
thinking back-
Broken Binding is doing a run of Malazan next year.
Oh, are they?
Uh-huh.
Wonder if
In
that'll be a
hardcover.
sub, because I'm on the sub now. But no,
I don't think it'll be a sub because it's 10 books.
Oh,
I
true.
think it'll be
Yeah.
just a
No,
general.
I know I'm going to come back to it. I just realized it was like those books take a lot of focus. And I picked probably one of the hardest weeks of the year to be trying to read Malazan, and I hit the worst part of that book from what everybody says at that week, and it beat me. So
I've walked away from after Memories of Ice twice.
Yeah.
Like I just can't do it. Like I get spent. I don't want to focus that hard anymore, and I'm just like, how about a nice progression fantasy? Let's go power up.
Oh man, but you love Dead House Gates so much, Josh. Like I feel like
Yeah.
you're gonna be in my camp and Alan's camp, where we were real Seven Cities people. And
Yeah.
so like the books, the Dead House Gates, and the kind of even like it's basically a sub series that they're different sub series than Malazan.
Yeah.
They're just disconnected. So it's Dead House Gates, House of Chains, and Bone Hunters. Like as a trilogy, that would probably be one of my favorite trilogies of all time. But I'm just less in love with the Ganabakis and Letherus books mostly. But like I just to get to Bone Hunters, like I think that book would be amazing for you.
Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons too, is I think about the first 2 books quite a lot, but I do want to find out what happens after Dead House Gates. So it's one of those, but I'm not going to skip Memories of Ice and pick up the 4th one. But yeah, Heidi asked us, so we're going to discuss Start of the Empire today. I don't think Theo and Ben have read it, but I know
do have them though.
But Andrew,
I gotta give them a try.
Did you say recently that that's now your favorite book?
Wow, is that book 1? Is that book 1?
It's so good.
This is book 1, but I've also read Raymond. So full disclosure, like after finishing this, I went and dropped $325 on the Grim Oak Press Rift War Sagas. This book, which I've already read and I love. This is the other side of that conflict, where you've got Midkemia and then you've got Kilawan. And this is where like the Serrani people, very Asian inspired. It's very politics heavy. One of the strongest. I like it because it's an analyzation of a strong female character. And the modern idea of strong female character is she can hit right with the boys.
Yeah.
But this, we're following the head of a family who has just experienced tragic loss, got ripped away from the church that she was about to join. She was about to become a nun. Like she was seconds away from being a nun. And then she gets told her parents are dead. This isn't spoilers. This is the beginning of the book.
Chapter 1. Yep.
This is chapter 1. And then she has to basically, her house has been decimated. And across this book, she has to use her mind, the culture. She has to play within the rules of honor, but twist them slightly to save her family, save her house. And I loved everything about it. Mara's amazing.
It was so well done. I felt the thing that really got me is it reminded me, I think the only parallel I've read political fantasy is Song of Ice and Fire. I think it should be revered at that level because I think they call it Game of the Council in here, not Game of Thrones. But you see all of these things happening. And I thought Mara was such a compelling character. And I think I said in my review and I tweeted it. I said, I'm kicking myself because I read a lot of fantasy in the 80s. I mean, you name it, I read it, but I somehow missed this series and it took me this long to read it. And honestly, one book in, this may be the best thing from that decade. I really think it has that potential. So I'm excited. I'm going to be starting Servant probably Monday.
Yeah.
Literally, this has zero like aging on it. It feels fresh and just like you can read it today and you could not tell me that this was written in the 80s.
Ben, we gotta read this, man.
Oh yeah.
We'll read it together, yeah.
This seems like
my new favorite book of all time.
Political fantasy. Scratch that political fantasy itch once we're done with Song of Ice and Fire. Yeah.
Yes, we're gonna need something to fill the gap. Yeah.
And this is the 4th book by Janie Wirtz that I've read, and so far I've enjoyed all of them.
I was gonna read To Ride Hell's Chasm. Would you recommend starting there for her prose, or should I just go into a different series with fights?
So she has different levels of prose.
Okay.
If you want something really accessible, you start at Cycle of Fire or Daughter of the Empire. Okay. They're both incredibly accessible. And then I think Master of White Storm is also pretty accessible. And then Hell's Riding Chasm steps up the prose a little bit. And that could be a good entry point to her Wars of Light and Shadow.
All right. See, every video you add how many books to your list, right? It
right?
Never ends. It never ends.
At least I already had these.
Stack of unhauls over here of just stuff I'm selling on Pango Books.
That happens too. That happens.
I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
But
I love getting pumped for books that I've picked up and I have on my shelf already. Like that is fantastic when I don't have to worry about acquiring any new ones.
Yes,
I'm sitting on about 700 unread ones.
Yeah,
here,
I got years to read. Like I'm fine. I don't technically need to. I'll be like, oh, like can we stop at the bookstore on our way? Like, and she's like, why? Like for what? What are you gonna buy like, that you don't own already? You know?
I've picked up before I really knew anything about it though. I saw for cheap just a couple of those Empire hardcovers at used bookstores, and so I have some of the first edition Empire hardcovers.
Nice.
But not the full set, only like the first and the third, and the other is in mass market, and that bothers me greatly.
I'm the same way. Like I don't really care what editions I get as long as they match on the shelf.
I heard you guys mention McCammon earlier.
I saw you pissed at that.
You were so somebody watch my book haul?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
Andrew, that's the reason I read Boy's Life on Kindle. Is because I knew they didn't match.
Look at that. Do you see this nonsense?
Ridiculous.
That's
Yeah.
a whole inch.
At least it's not the tall, skinny MMPB of Swan Song.
Oh, those are the worst. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
one I have. It's horrible.
I have the small, thick Boy's Life, but then I ended up it's my favorite book aside from Storm of Swords. So I bought the first edition,
Nice.
and then I got I found really cheap a signed copy first edition in fine condition of Mine, which is kind of a cool little horror story by McCammon. So I want to read this one as well. And
I'm gonna be
getting
the. I'm gonna rectify that.
Yeah.
But then
I
again,
love
I've got McCammon over there. I've got They Thirst, I think, over there.
I want to read They
No,
Thirst
They
next,
Thirst is-
probably. Yeah.
That's not They. I've got Gone South because They Thirst is out of print, and I refuse to pay those prices for it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna be getting that one on ebook.
I picked up an old normal sized MMPB of Swan Song at a used
wow.
bookstore.
Nice.
And I was happy about that because I despise the tall, skinny MMPBs. Whoever
Those are the worst
ever
formats
designed-
I've
I
ever
don't
seen.
mind them.
They
I
they have
mind
You're
them.
weird, Andrew.
They have
That's
I
not
read them
weird.
in my mid-20s.
extra
who
tight
cares?
extra tight bindings that I don't like and they break very easily. But I have big hands, and so like I have to grip them and I cover the text because there's basically no margins on the side. And so if
Yeah.
I don't want to cover the text, I have to grip the very edges of the page, and I hate that. Yeah.
So
I
many
don't own any.
problems.
I don't own any physical Dresden anymore. So
Yeah.
Yeah, the audio is so good. I barely ever want to pick it up in print. I did a whole reread and did it basically all in audio. I'm like, why do I even own my physical
I wouldn't even.
Dresdens?
Yeah.
I had them on ebook. I didn't even do the audios until it got time for Battlegrounds.
No stress, Scott. Hey, that's no stress, Scott.
Hey, that's
Oh my gosh, Scott, that's smart, but at the same time, like, I'm just a rabid collector.
Yeah.
yeah. There's two sides. There's the book reader and the book collector.
Yeah.
And sometimes they
Kevin.
might be at odds with one another.
Yeah,
I
like
can't wait for
I'll be
Kevin.
listening to a book and my wife's like, "What are you listening to?" I'm like, I'll tell her, and she was like, "You've got that on the shelf. Why aren't you reading it?" I'm like, "It's not the same thing."
Yeah.
Like, I think
True.
I'm nuts.
Yeah, I agree with that one there. There's just something about physical book for me. I tend to connect with it more. I generally only do the Kindle when I'm traveling just for convenience. But yeah, there's just something about a book. I just connect. But
Josh, do you do audio at all? Are you big into audio?
a little bit.
I've been loving audio, but it was actually Sun Eater that got me into the habit of reading immersively, and because Samuel Raukin is just absolute
good.
perfection as Hadrian,
He
the
is.
first person retrospective narrator. And there's also something about first person and retrospective tales, especially that lend themselves, I think, to audio
Yeah.
more than any other format. But I've enjoyed reading immersively, like seeing it and hearing it. To me, that is as immersed as I can be in a book. That gets me there. And it just all other visual and auditory distractions I don't have to deal with. There with my noise canceling headphones, also looking at the page, like that to me is when I'm the most immersed in books. So I've been loving doing more of that immersive reading, although it can be a little tricky if you're reading too fast.
I was going to ask
yeah.
you don't have the feature on your Kindle device, maybe, right? So you just sync up. Or no, you're reading from a hardcover and
Yeah,
audio
yeah,
at the same
no,
time, so
I
you're
just
doing it that
it's
way.
all manually, and it
Gotcha.
if you get into the rhythm of it, it could be great.
You got to find the speed,
yeah.
and then you're okay. And every once in a while, you're like, "Oh crap, I got to pause for a second."
But yeah, then inevitably you speed ahead a bit because like I read naturally at like a
pretty quick
an audio like a 2 times speed.
Yeah,
But I like to listen if I'm just listening at like 1.2 to 1.5.
Yeah.
So I like to be able to just sit with the audio a little bit more in a relaxed way. But when I read, I'm like speeding ahead. And that's one of the reasons I also love audio is because I think get to savor it more, because when I'm reading just in print, I do speed ahead. I don't do many voices in my head. I'm not like an actual narrator in my head.
Right.
And so getting the audio is oftentimes it feels like a richer experience for me.
That's all. I'm going to start
Sun
doing
Eater
that
is-
more.
Sun Eater is the series that's the monkey on my back right now. because I got caught up on Demon and White, and then the other books started coming out, Kingdoms of Death and Ashes of Man.
Yeah,
and I still haven't gotten to them.
Kingdoms of Death was my favorite, and then I didn't pick up Ashes of Man. I was kind of saving it, and now it's been too. You know how it gets away from you a bit.
Yeah,
month after month.
yeah.
I still have Ashes of Man, so I got to get back to that one.
I just pre-ordered book 6.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
I haven't read any of them, but I did back the Kickstarter because I'm pretty confident that I'm going to enjoy them.
Yeah,
so.
I think you'll appreciate it, Josh.
Yeah,
I think you will. It's beautifully written. It's very well done.
The writing is amazing, but like he also happened to get the best cover art in the entire SFF modern genre for my liking. Like I am just crazy about these covers. Just love them.
To answer this comment though, I don't like James S.A. Corey, and I love Sun Eater. So don't let him blur S.A. Corey.
I love them both.
They're not even comparable.
Scott's pissed. Sorry, Scott. Sorry, man. Kevin, you read Boy's Life, and I'll read Ashes of Man. Let's go.
There we go.
Sun Eater, since I've been really following BookTube and had my own channel, Sun Eater has blown up. I mean, within our little niche space, but it's been so fun to watch that happen because I remember seeing Mike's book reviews talk about it, and I had never heard of the author, no clue, but a bunch of the books had been released. So he was really like an unknown author, released through Trad Pub, but just did not get much of a following until Mike started reviewing the books and raving about them. Yeah. And then more people started to pick them up. I got hardcovers pretty easily back when I started reading the series. And then soon after, they blew up in value.
Yeah.
And it's been fun to see just like someone who is great guy, like become from an unknown, just like, and awesome books. The writing is top tier. Like for a young person to have written Empire of Silence, like it blows me away because there's so much sophistication and wisdom in there. And then the rest of the series is just gangbusters. Like Empire of Silence is a nice slow burn beginning, but the sequels are just some of the best books I've ever read, and some of the wildest rides I've had in all of my reading journey.
Crazy world.
The cost of those early hardcovers is ridiculous. I had just like an eBay search every time one would pop up, and I mean the cheapest I ever saw was like $125 for one. I said nope, I'm not doing that. And then luckily the Kickstarter came out, so it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's perfect for those people that couldn't get their hands on one and kind of want a nice matching set, hopefully, right?
Yeah, he said that's the plan, and if you backed it, you'll have first you have rights for the next one. So
of course Kevin read Boy's Life. I forgot about that. I think he's making Evie read it, and that's why I thought, oh, you guys are reading it together. Sweet. But yeah, he does love Boy's Life. Now I remember. But
they did release new like trade paperback versions of Sun Eater, the first few books, so you can get the book. Books probably in a matching set if his new publisher, because he switched publishers.
He went to Bain, didn't he?
If Bain will publish the trade paperbacks in that size, although in Barnes & Noble I saw all three formats, because there was a new hardcover of Ashes of Man, and then a new trade paperback of like Kingdoms of Death, and the mass market of Demon and White. But the mass markets are being phased out. But the new trade paperback is like a medium size. It's not like the full like John Gwynn trade paperback size. So,
those are my favorite.
More like this.
Publishers do some odd things. Yeah, more like that size. Yeah.
And Rogue, yes, I do love Daniel Abraham. I can speak, but I think it's the Ty Frank that ruins James S.A. Corey for me.
You're talking The Expanse, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it. I think Ty Frank was the person with the ideas and the world building, and they brought Abraham in to really like bring the characters alive and the prose. And so I'm not too sure what they all, their responsibilities were for writing, but it all worked for me. I love the whole series.
Yeah, you love The Expanse.
Love LPQ. My main issue is the first couple books are really, they needed to go back to the editor, because like I can only listen to he said, she said, he said, she said, he said, she said.
Yeah, if you're doing that in audio, it's
awful.
Yeah, if you're reading it with your eyes, you can kind of skip. You can kind of eliminate that, right? But audio, that
But
would
then
be
there was
nuts.
also just logical things that just didn't make sense to me. Like, hey, we've got the guy. We've got the guy. Oh, don't worry. We need a second half of this book. Let's let him out of prison. Why? No reason.
I don't like things like that. That's for sure. We'll see.
So I've been told I quit right before The Expanse got good. I'm told I need to read Nemesis Games.
Oh yeah, you stopped right before the big shakeup of the series. Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah.
And
Have you seen the show? I mean, either of you that read the books. I'm curious.
Yeah, I saw the
Yeah.
first few seasons of the show, but didn't get too attached to it. But
Yeah.
I liked the first few seasons, but I like the books a lot more. But it's fun for me because I was able to. I thought the cast was really perfect for that, and I was able to visualize and picture the cast as I was reading the series. So same thing with Song of Ice and Fire. Like I think that's also adding to my enjoyment, being able to so clearly visualize the characters. Because when I don't have that, characters are very indistinct in my kind of mental imagery.
I never read The Expanse, but I watched a season and a half, and I really enjoyed it. And I actually stopped deliberately so I could go back and read the books.
Yeah, I do think the
it was
books
very
are
good.
better. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Good to know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I
I
can't
wanna
wait
do
to try
both.
Abraham's solo stuff because I've got
I've
Oh,
got
that, yeah.
Kithamar locked and loaded, and I've got Dagger and Coin on ebook.
Can we chat a little about John Gwynn? I know Theo's been doing a
So good.
Faithful and the Fallen reread with the brothers Gwynn. I mean, how perfect is I'm so jealous.
That's pretty cool.
I maybe want to just tag along at some point and
Do
start
it.
rereading those
Do it.
because that is one of my all-time favorites. Like it's just
Me too.
I read it early on in my adult fantasy revival, and
So
just
that's why I
so
wanted to
special.
reread it
Yeah.
because it was so special to me. I had a blast. I'm like, this is one of my favorites for sure. But I read it like a few years ago now, and I wonder how it would hold up. And so we reread Malice just recently, and it was better the second time.
Yes.
Like it was better the second time. Some of the flaws that I noticed at the beginning, like with Malice, it's not perfect. I didn't care. I'm like, I'm having such a good time.
Oh,
Such a
yes.
good time. So I can't wait for the rest of the series because it just gets so much fun.
I'm fully prepared to drop hundreds of dollars on the Grim Oak.
That's
special
what I'm
edition.
waiting for. That's what that
Oh.
one I'm 100%.
Yeah, they're coming
buying.
out.
I
I
am-
saw that.
I'm
I'm not
fully
messing around.
prepared
Yeah.
to
Like
rip out a
grand.
kidney.
Yeah.
Because I got so mad. I got so mad when Broken Binding did those hardcovers, and then we weren't allowed to buy them in the U.S. I got so mad.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the Grim Oaks too. In fact, I
Ooh.
have the UK paperbacks, and I found like I think Valor used as one of the because
Yeah, the UK ones are smaller. Yeah.
they're smaller, and I have the other ones like the of Blood and
The
Bone,
Orbit.
and then the other ones in the full orbit. So I wanted the Faithful and the Fallen in the full orbit, but I didn't want to rebuy them because I know I'm gonna buy the Grim Oaks. So I'm like, maybe I'll just wait and get those, So yeah.
I miss my time in the world. I love those characters, and to a certain extent, for me, if the book is connecting, if it has its teeth sunk into me and has hooked me, I will try to just turn off my analytical brain, and everything will be working. I'll be
me too.
along for the ride, and I won't try to be thinking of plot holes. Like
Same.
Andrew, like you're talking about like plot holes from like the first few Expanse books. I don't remember anything like that for me because I wasn't on the search for it. I wasn't trying to like thinking about those.
Yeah.
I was along for the ride, and for Faithful and the Fallen, that was one of the most immersive rides of my life.
And you could argue that Faithful and the Fallen, on the whole, is a little bit predictable. There are some tropes that are subverted, some are not. They're just very, tropey. I just turned my brain off and I was just having fun with the characters. So I think there's a degree of how you interpret it and how you allow yourself to enjoy it. Depends the mood you're in too. Sometimes you want to dissect stuff, and maybe that's not the right book to do that with, right? Like I don't know.
I read all three of, so I'm going to talk of Blood and Bone, Faithful and the Fallen, and The Expanse. I read all three of those at different points.
Yeah.
When I first read Faithful and the Fallen, I was just a viewer. I didn't have a channel. I was just watching Mike's channel, and I got the recommendation. I picked him up, loved it. Then I started my channel, and I read Of Blood and Bone, and I liked it, but I had already I struggled to get out of the reviewer mindset and the analytical aspect because I'm looking for books to recommend to people. And so I found a lot more flaws with Of Blood and Bone. It felt like there was a lot more of just recycled ideas of more of the same old from the last 4 books, just kind of with the time jump and maybe some slight twists to it.
Yeah, I agree, Nikki. Yeah.
And then The Expanse, it was just, I was full on reviewer mindset. And so I just saw everything.
It's a double-edged sword, because like you want to read, you want to be engaged, you want to read actively, you want to, remember things and be able to critique when and if you need to. But does that detract from your enjoyment from the other side of the lens? Like ignorance is bliss. You used to just read and have fun, but now you got to talk to people about it.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
It very much changes how
does.
You might read. Yeah.
I try not to let it affect me negatively, but sometimes I'm like, I don't think I'd pick up on that, or I don't think I would dwell on that or remember that, because I know I need to talk about it. If I was just hanging out reading a book, not needing to review it or whatever, or even just talk about it, right? Yeah.
I'm trying
I've
to
been
take
doing a lot less book reviews lately, just because I want to just sit back and enjoy what I'm reading.
Yeah. And but I think you do a great job of just, showing your emotional response to a book. And that's what I'm most interested in, really, when I watch reviews of books. I want to know what the kind of overall engagement level and emotional experience was with the read. And I don't usually seek out too much actual critical analysis.
Yeah.
I want to just enjoy them more like for fun on the side right now. Like, and I've been trying to, in my own reviews, not take too analytical of an approach and just gush about all the things that I've loved.
That's
when
actually,
I read.
It's funny you say that, because that's why I love your guys' channel. I've been following Josh forever. You the 3 of you guys are some of my favorite channels for sure. But I follow you guys for different reasons. So like Andrew reads a ton, and he can compare stuff, and he can be like, this is like that. If you like that, you'll like this. If you don't like, he's just like, you can trust his, and if you vibe with his taste, you can trust it. Ben, I follow you for the emotion and the gush and the like, you're the hype man, right? Like if you're enjoying something, I can watch you talk about it eloquently, straight, without cuts for like half an hour. And it's like, it's great. And then Josh has an ability to dissect stuff. Not that he does all the time or even deliberately, but just like explain to you what is good, subjective and objective too, to a point. And just dig into the themes. And, he does stuff that I could never do on my channel. And so I follow you guys for different reasons. And I just love your channels. So
thanks.
And everyone else should be following everybody.
Yeah.
So
I'm right with you on getting different flavors of
different flavors.
Approaching books through all different channels. And
absolutely. I mean, I can contrast like 2 channels I love, like AP Canavan. I love the depth of everything he does on his channel. Dissects. I mean, he can dissect a paragraph for like an hour.
It's crazy.
I love that. But I also love just watching Durfee.
Like Durfee. I was going to say,
like that's the spectrum, like the AP, but like, man, Durfee is just fun, and he's enthusiastic, and it's just raw and unfiltered. And I love those channels equally for very different reasons.
Absolutely.
So, it's very true.
Well,
One
of the things that, reviewers can kind of start struggling with, Tori does a whole kind of series on this called Imposter Syndrome.
Yes.
And essentially it's just like, well, my style of reviewing isn't like AP's or Philip Chase or Mike and Jimmy and Daniel Green, Murphy Napier, Brian Lee Durfee. Like, we all have different styles, but they all are relevant and have value. And so it's one thing to, like, just come up and spew a bunch of crap that's not true about a book. But if you're giving honest thoughts and feelings, then it's a review that has value. And we all do it differently.
It's funny you say that, because I was having this conversation with somebody, and actually I had this conversation with Tall Guy Reads too. And we were saying there are times where we don't do a review because we're like, well, that person did it perfectly. That's exactly how I wish I could do it. But the point is, people watch reviews in different ways, like we just said, for different reasons. So the way I'll do it might appeal to someone else, even though I wish I could have done it like Mike or like Andrew or John or whoever, right? So if you want to talk about a book and you have value to add, like Andrew, like you said, go for it. somebody's going to appreciate it, and some people are going to hate you, and you're going to get hate mail. Whatever, it is what it is. So
my channel's just gotten big enough where like I can routinely expect on every video to every other video for at least one salty comment.
Yeah, that means you've made it. That means you've made it, man. So, yeah.
Hey, and congrats! I think you just hit 4K recently, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Crazy.
Yeah, and Theo, you just hit 2K, so congrats to you.
No,
too.
I'm close.
Congrats.
I'm very close,
no?
but thank you. Yeah, I'm
Hey, everybody watching this, go hit the like. He
Yeah.
needs to be at 2K.
Go subscribe to
absolutely.
Theo.
I've been slumping on the videos lately. I think I would have been there had I been able to put out a couple of videos in the last couple of weeks. I mean, I put out 1 or 2, but I just haven't had the time to film. It's been crazy. Next week is going to be a big filming day, so I can't wait to catch up on some content. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how you guys do it.
Yeah.
God damn. I don't know how you guys do it.
It can be tough for me to figure out videos other than the more routine ones.
Right.
Like the wrap-ups feel so natural to film. I enjoy just almost creating like a video diary of what I've been reading.
They're
recently.
my favorite videos of yours, are your wrap-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to figure out some new types to do. The tags are fun, and they're also, I don't have to put in much thought because the prompts are right there. So I want to try some new things though. Like if anyone's seen the book guy, the person I was on the live chat with on Joanna's channel, Kronk the book guy, he's in Australia. He's been doing all of these like beginner's guide to series videos, and they are amazing, and they're fun, full of energy, and they're just these overviews of series like Discworld and First Law and what else, Song of Ice and Fire, Dresden Files. And I want to try to do some of those for some of the less popular ones that I'm a big fan of, like Shadows of the Apt.
That'd be great.
I
would love to watch that. Yeah.
Oh man, I just want that series to find its true readership, because it really, I think, would grab a lot of the overlap in the audience between like Sanderson and John Gwynne, like the creativity of Sanderson, the prose and pacing, and the military battle intensity of Faithful and the Fallen, just with Tchaikovsky's like incredibly creative world building, and it's just, I think it would have a huge audience that would love it, and it just like has had such a small audience because it came out when Tchaikovsky was debuting and from a really small press. I can't even remember the name of the press, but it was like a very small press that probably didn't do much of a push behind it. And then he hit it big with the sci-fi stuff and Children of Time, and now they've re-released Shadows of the Apt in the new matching format, and they've had audiobooks, which are amazing. The audios are awesome. So I want that series
through the Bark and Binding.
Yep. Oh, got a couple of those. Yeah.
They're just doing Blood of the Mantis now.
But like, this is a series that I think not a lot of people have heard of or got hyped about, and I love it so much. So I want to, do a kind of intro overview to the series to hype it up.
I have a question for you then on Shadows of the Apt, because I quit after the first arc. I quit after book 4. And I think what hurt my enjoyment of the series was actually I read the first book physically and I loved it. I loved reading it physically. And then I switched to audio, and my reward just went straight into the garbage.
So one thing that's interesting, I love the audio, but if I found that however I start an experience, like if I am used to just reading it physically, then switching to the audio can be really jarring. Or if I've only been doing audio, just like reading it in print without that can also be jarring. Like it might have been just switching formats, because I love the narrator. I think he
does a good job.
Allen. Yeah, and they worked for me in audio, and some others that have tried it have also loved the audio. So it worked for me. I did it hybrid, like I do most things, where sometimes I was picking it up in print, sometimes the audio, and doing both, and loving the whole thing. But what's so fascinating about the series is that it does have a kind of satisfying first 4-book arc, and there is a bit of a plot reset and short time skip after that. But at book 5 is a lot of people's one of their favorites of the series. It just the series slows down and deepens. We just focus on one location, following just a few of the characters, which is very different from the more sprawling style of the first arc. And so it has a different feel to it. It has a different feel to it. And if you end up
your credit card to one of these things.
The Scarab Path is book 5. It's incredible. We go to a place that is like, it's inspired by ancient Egypt, but it's as if ancient Egypt like survived somehow in an isolated backwater part of the world to a more modern time period. And we travel there, and it's really, really great book in the series, and it slows down. And so if you end up really liking book 5, you'd probably really enjoy the next bunch of books too. And then the final ending trilogy was so great. So you put in the time for the series. You're familiar with the world building, the overarching plot. Be ashamed to miss out if you would really love the rest of the series, I think. So give book 5 a try.
Yep.
Yeah, Kevin, right?
Bam.
He just bought it. Look, bye.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Who needs money?
Who needs money?
Tchaikovsky was also a new author. Like he was coming from like a different professional career and academic career, and those first app books were his first books. And I do think they are a little rough around the edges, but I think he really hit his stride with book 5 there.
Oh,
I
Kevin,
saw
I
a
do
comment.
keep my Kindle on me at all times.
I saw a comment about Ogres. Ogres is phenomenal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've
For a
got
piece
so
of
much
short
Tchaikovsky.
fiction. Yeah.
I've only read
I
one.
just bought it.
Yeah, I've only read City of Last Chances. Yeah, that was the one.
Oh yeah, I
read.
have that one.
Ooh.
What did you think, Josh, on that one?
So, you know what it reminded me of was
Oh.
Les Miserables. It was
Interesting.
totally giving me 19th century
Ooh, that's
novel vibes.
Look
Oh,
at those
that's
edges.
beautiful.
Look at those hedges.
Wow.
Do you run a hedge fund or something? Like, how much money do you have? Like,
Oh,
Jesus
look at that. Wow.
This
Is
was
that
only
broken
$40.
Is that broken binding?
or did you already sell a kidney and you only have the one now?
Listen, I'm not gonna disclose my secrets, but that was part of the subscription through GSFF, Goldsboro.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
it was only like $40.
Ooh.
Wow.
Nice. Andrew sells pictures of his feet. Confirmed. All right.
Listen, I don't have nice enough toes for that.
If only we could make money that way. Yeah.
Maybe if I get a really good pedicure, shave them up a bit, I could possibly trick some people online.
Oh, geez.
The thing with Tchaikovsky, he is such a range and in different genres. Like Shadows of the App feels totally different from Ogres and Elder Race,
I've
which
heard that.
all of which I've loved. And I gotta try Guns of the Dawn, and then
Guns
Children
of the Dawn
Time.
is the one that
Yeah,
I
that's
would
amazing.
read next. Yeah.
Guns
yeah.
of the Dawn is amazing.
Ooh.
It's kind of like a Jane Austen-esque thing, and then you kind of move into a kind of World War I in the trenches front.
Cool.
Very cool.
Cool.
Yeah, I definitely like authors that have scope like that. You know, thinking of like a Dan Simmons who's written so many different kinds of things,
Right.
or Stephen King. I mean, just scratching the surface of McCammon as well. It seems like he's written a lot of different kinds of books too. So
Ooh. Stephen King was one of the people I bought a bunch of the books in that 2018 Barnes & Noble run, and I have not read most of those that I got in 2018, but I did read Salem's Lot, which I enjoyed.
nice.
And Apt Pupil, which I really
That's-
like.
Oh, yeah.
I really want to read that one. That one is in
That's in different seasons.
Different
Yeah.
seasons.
Yeah, I read the little paperback standalone version of that, and I got the paperback standalone of The Body, and also I'm sitting on 11/22/63 and the whole Dark Tower series.
Gotta read that one.
Pet Cemetery was one of the ones I bought 5 years ago.
You got a
I
lot
still
of
have to read.
good King ahead of you because I've read some of the big ones. Yeah. I have a lot
Absolutely.
of King left. As
I
well.
read about one King book a month.
Oh,
One
I
out of
gotta
your
keep-
50
I gotta
books is
keep going.
King, so that's great. That's
Yeah.
cool.
With The Stand, I have the original like version of it, the shortened
Yeah.
one. Then I have like I found the
You put an
reissue.
original Stand in good condition.
No, paperback, like not hardcover. No.
Okay, that's
not that.
that's the
That's not
1990
the
version.
original. This is
Yeah,
the,
that,
yeah.
that
No,
one
no,
came
I
out
have,
in
like-
1990.
No, I have an MMPB of the shortened of the original version.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was about to
but
say, if you
the-
got it in hardcover, I'm driving to Jersey today.
But I have like that hardcover. I got at a used bookstore of the reissued version, but that's not like a valuable. The uncut version, that's not like a hard to get valuable one.
Scott, 11/22/63 is amazing. It's one of my top
Yeah.
5 books. It's no Green
Same.
Mile. It's no
Yeah.
Green Mile.
Interesting.
I'm
very good
interested.
book.
You know, I did the video that has the most views on my channel is when I did my top 10 Stephen King, and it
My
it's
top
still
3 short.
Like every
Is my-
week, everybody, I still get more views on that, even when I put out a new video. It's just
Really?
one of those videos that has legs. But yeah, when I did my top 10, you know, I'd read all of these. I finished my King journey, and I read everything over the span of decades. I think I read my first King in like 1989. And then I
Whoa.
finished it last year. So I'm really curious when I go back and I reread some of these, how that is going to change. Like Green Mile, I read it as the serial when it came out, like one per month. And that was, you know, back in the 90s or whatever. So it didn't make the top 10. But I wonder if reading it as single volume, if that's going to change this second time
It's
around.
amazing.
But yeah,
I also prefer
11/22/63 is
Neutral
my
Things over
favorite.
11/22/63 if I'm gonna really jab it into Scott.
I keep wanting to read Green Mile, but I also don't want to be depressed for like a year. So
Right.
It's not super depressing. It's just it's very hard. It's sad, but
It's
it's
just-
not
Yeah.
depressing.
it's a tearjerker.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is okay.
So I got-
There's a time for that.
This is the MMPB I have of the
Oh, the original.
abridged version. The abridged
Yeah.
version.
Whoa.
Should I read that, or should I read the
I
this
think you should
guy,
read
the
that.
the uncut?
I think you should read that.
I think you read Uncut, although I think Jimmy's read both and he prefers the other one. But that's
Really?
I think that's the
I think it's
minority.
a difference of about 400 pages.
Yeah,
Jesus.
It's a huge difference.
yeah. Let me answer Escape to Books. Check out my top 10 list to plug my own list. But
Yeah,
um,
I gotta
got a
try
top
both of these.
3. Say what?
I gotta try both of these. I am worried though with these. I get scared and like I'm genuinely afraid of these
You know what?
experiences.
Neither
Pet
one
Cemetery
is
will scare the
spooky
pants off of
scary.
you. Misery isn't so scary as it is terrifying.
It's yeah. Even Pet Cemetery, it's like psychologically like what if this happened? It's not like
Yeah.
jump scare,
Oh,
spooky,
okay,
like
that's good.
blood drip.
That's good.
But it's like,
I can deal with that. I think.
it's freaky. It's very freaky.
Pet Cemetery is one where I'm
It's one
waffling
of
on.
my favorites.
Like, I want to get the Folio Society Pet Cemetery, but at the same time, it's literally the King book that was too scary for me to finish.
Whoa.
yeah, I can see that.
When did you read that? In other
17.
words, so you were childless at the time,
Yes.
and it was still that creepy.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you can only imagine.
Well, and so like I'm nervous because like I saw the folio release and I was like, when I ranked my King video on my channel, where I ranked all the King that I've currently read, I put it in the bottom tier, not because it was bad, but because it scared the pants off of me so much that I had to put it down. And I never wanted to pick it back up again. But recently I've been like, well, maybe I do want to pick it back up again.
Have you done
I
The
don't know.
Shining? I have that one too, and I'm also scared of that one.
I love The Shining.
That one is a bit freaky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's atmospheric creepy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. A
Ooh,
lot
okay.
of dread and suspense and
I think I can handle dread. I don't
yeah.
love the horror movie style of being scared, but this sounds like I could handle it.
Yeah.
But no, his just style felt very unique just from Salem's Lot and At Pupil. Like it definitely felt distinctive and like I was vibing with it. So I want to give him much more of a try.
My thing with King is whenever he tries to be super scary, he ends up going more sexually perverse than anything else.
Mm.
And those books, whenever he does that really turns me off. Like that's why I don't really like Wizard and Glass. It's because it's a great story with great characters, and then there's just this element that I despise. Like it's like that the story didn't need that. You were trying to be scary and creepy when really where your scary and creepiness is you're great at the atmosphere and at the tone and at the themes, but he always takes it just one step too far when he's trying to be scary.
Mm. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, Salem's Lot had almost none of that. It was just all of the creepy vibes. And
Dr. Sleep has it as well. I just recently put down Dr. Sleep for The Girl Who Loves Tom Gordon instead because I wasn't here for it.
I had at least one terrifying nightmare after reading Salem's Lot that I'm aware of because it woke me up.
Was it second story window?
Is it the window?
To me, that is one of the scariest things I've ever read anywhere.
Yeah.
That scene just so
Oh my
good.
God. Yeah. That was almost my limit of what I can take with horror.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot. There wasn't a lot in there too. That book.
But no, he does atmospheric very, very well. Well, I think all the best horror authors are like that. I think even like McCammon, the horror elements I've read, and just the two I've read, you can tell just he just has the chops to be able to do that. And I think the best of that genre, that's what they do so well, is they have the tension and the atmospheric there. Like Scott's comment here.
I'm aware it's a very popular Dark Tower book. I'm aware.
Yeah, it's my favorite of the series, but
it is, Josh?
I prefer book 5.
Interesting.
It had more of a sci-fi western feel to it. That I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
I also like Drawing of the Three. I liked Wastelands. Those are probably my 3 favorites of the Dark Tower. And
the thing I love about those 7 books, they're all so very different.
Yeah.
It's actually remarkable what he's able to do in that series.
I'm going to read it next year for the first time. I have a friend of mine who's a diehard fan. I mean, a lot of you guys are. He really wants me to read it too.
I highly recommend reading Salem's Lot and Insomnia as part of your...
Maybe I'll reread Salem's Lot. Insomnia I haven't, but I've heard that I should. So thank you for that reminder.
It's basically Dark Tower 6.5. It contextualizes a character in book 7 that you don't really understand why that person's important unless you've read Insomnia.
Okay, cool. Should I read that first or in the order kind of in between?
So read
books?
Song of Susanna, then Insomnia, then The Dark Tower.
Cool. Okay.
You don't need to read Wind Through the Keyhole. And even though you visit the world of The Stand, you only visit very briefly. You don't actually need to have read The Stand.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll read The Stand before anyway, because I read most of it, but I'm due for completion. So
yeah. As a non-King like reader, except for just a couple of the earlier books, it's been fascinating from the outside to see like the mega fans, how they're receiving a lot of his more recent books, because he's just continuing to pump them out, and it seems like they're not hitting his like core audience that favorably, and it is fascinating with this as authors get up there in age and they're still going, like just if they're able to keep up their momentum from their primes. And I'm thinking about that. Well, like
he's doing different things. Yeah. Like he's doing like what was it called? What's that one? It's the Portal Fantasy one.
Fairy Tale.
Yeah, Fairy Tale. Like that one was not really King's core. People wanted that. They were like, "Ooh, fantasy from King, cool," but it didn't.
He nailed the first 30% of that book.
I would agree. Yeah. Because I DNF'd it around 60%, so that's when it got. I was like, I can't.
Oh, I finished
and
it.
Then what is it? Holly coming out. So Holly follows characters that like a lot of people didn't really vibe with in that world anyway. So I don't know.
So to answer Kevin, my problem with Wind Through the Keyhole is it's a double nested narrative.
Yeah.
So essentially, you're following your quartet, but you're only with them. They're bookended. They're only in the first chapter, maybe the second, and then at the very end. And then you kind of go into a story, and then you go from into that story into another story. So if you like that sort of thing, yeah, Wind Through the Keyhole is great, but it's weird.
I think it works well in publication order to kind of read it as just a little like an epilogue to the whole series rather than reading it after Wizard and Glass, because it's kind of a slight tale that doesn't really, I don't know if it adds anything to it, but when I read it, I was just kind of happy to be back with the quartet. So I think reading it at that time, it worked for me.
What is that word? Is that a Dark Tower? Is that a Dark Tower word?
Yeah, quartet. That's basically their fellowship. They're called the quartet. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering what that was. But no, it's curious to follow authors that really write for like their entire life, like. And I'm a huge Bernard Cornwell fan now. I say Bernard because I heard all the British folks say that.
They say that. I can't say it.
Bernard.
But I have read now like 18 Sharp books, all from like the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, and the Warlord Chronicles, which he wrote in like the mid 90s, felt like he's just at his writerly peak. And I can't wait to try out the Saxon Tales. But then he finished that, and now he's releasing another Sharp book supposed to be later this year.
It's like the
It'll be so
25th book or
fascinating.
something.
Yeah, like book 24, maybe 25.
Crazy.
It'll be
Yeah.
fascinating to see just like what it's like, at this point in his life. If I feel like he still got it, or if because he's in his 80s now. Like I love that he's still releasing books, but it seems like King has not been really pleasing the fans recently. I'm curious to see how Cornwell's doing, and
I think
he
King's
gets up
last
there.
big hit was Later.
Yeah, later
Was incredibly well received.
people.
and
Yeah,
I-
that's right.
When was that? When was that around?
A couple years ago.
Oh,
Years. Yeah.
2019.
Yeah.
Because I think it was later Billy Summers, then it went Fairy Tale. Do you have the hardcover?
I do.
I didn't know you made a hardcover.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, this was
Billy Summers. I haven't read. I bought that one kind of when it came out, and I haven't
Billy
yet to read
Summers,
that
I've
one.
heard is good. It's just it
21.
never ranks high on anybody's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, this was 2021 actually.
Yeah. Not
Um,
that long ago.
But yeah, this one was good. It's I mean, it's with King, it's just I think like most people, he's been trying different things and it works for some for some readers and some it doesn't. Like Bill Hodges trilogy, I really liked them.
A lot of people really
a lot
liked
of people
it, yeah.
didn't because it was crime fiction and he was going a different way, but I enjoyed them.
Yeah.
Now we'll see how Holly hits for me. Billy Summers was fine.
The Institute was also very different, so that's like a very unique.
Institute for me is a King book where I felt he didn't do the build up as well as the landing, which is like the opposite of King, because King's always the master of the great build, and then the ending might be good or not. But I felt the ending of that one was stronger than the beginning. But I know a lot of people like that one a little bit more than me. But I think sometimes for me, because King's been my favorite author for so long, my expectations are always super high. So I just, it never quite matches up with, some of my favorite books of his.
That's cool though that he's doing new things, but I could totally see that, like if an author like Joe Abercrombie, like I love the First Law books, like my expectations for trying his like YA series are like so sky high. It seems like everyone gets disappointed by those Shattered Sea books, or like whatever he comes out with next. Hopefully I'll love it, but like my expectations are so high. But First Law is its own unique thing, and maybe I won't love something else, even if it has his same writerly flair and skill, but it's just a totally different thing. I might not connect to it as much. So
hey, that's what I'm finding with Hobb. What was that, Andrew?
I said that's how I feel, kind of going off what Ben said, that's how I feel about the Hexologist coming out here soon by Josiah Bancroft.
Yeah.
Because
he didn't hit as well with you as
well, no, I haven't read it yet. I'm nervous. I'm nervous to get to it because I like the Books of Babel quite a bit. Even taking into account how I feel about the last book, that I'm kind of nervous to see what he comes out with next.
I mean, that's how I feel reading Soldier Son right now of Hobb. I mean, it's not the level of Realm of the Elderlings. There's still a lot in there, but yeah.
So is it better to get some of an author's like lesser works or lower quality ones, or ones that wouldn't connect as much, like out of the way early, and then you don't have that disappointment later? Or is it better to just get hyped about through the works that you would connect with most?
Get hyped, especially we all have TBRs of like 1 billion books, so don't waste the time on
I think it's easier. I think it's easier that way too, to go back in a catalog and sort of forgive some of the shortcomings as you know where they ended up, and you can kind of read it in that context, which I think helps.
Gemmell is a perfect example of that. The Troy trilogy is, I mean, he died writing the Troy trilogy.
Yeah.
It's an absolute masterpiece.
Wow.
And so going back and experiencing and watching how he grew into that author who wrote that trilogy was just amazing.
Interesting.
Ooh, I got to give that one a try. Because I did study ancient Greece a bit in college, read the Iliad a couple times for classes. I have to give that one a read. And I really enjoyed Song of Achilles. And
I
Theo
love
read that
Song
one
of
recently.
Achilles.
Like, that's the first time I've revisited kind of that.
Has
story.
Alan forgiven you yet, Theo?
For what? For which
For
one?
the Gemmell. What's the Gemmell one that we were supposed to buddy read and then you left me in the dust?
Oh, Lion of Macedon.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, no, whoops. Yeah.
But I'm
You
psyched
left
to
me for
read
Alan.
Gemmell's Troy. There's so many ancient Greek set books nowadays. It's definitely become
Yeah.
a thing. But Song of Achilles started the trend. It was so, and it makes sense that it started a trend because it was so good.
I
It
was
was
blown
so-
away
yeah.
by Song of Achilles. I know some people
Yeah.
that haven't loved it. I was really impressed by it,
Yeah.
actually. I didn't think
Yeah.
I would like it as much as I did. I put it off.
Yeah,
I had
same,
that one in
same.
search,
Yeah.
but I didn't read either one for a long time. So I'm excited to get to the other one. She's great. And she handled that story with such care and like
Yeah.
such an in-depth knowledge, because it's one of the
Yeah.
most important works of literature, I think. At least it's been said to be. And just you know she knows her stuff, but the twists and stuff and the way that her interpretation of it was done very tastefully, I think. It's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
So
I love that we got a lot of slice of life in that time period, like before we
Yeah.
arrive in the setting of the war. So like
yeah.
in the Iliad, you're dropped into like the 9th year of, or whatever it is of the Trojan War.
Right.
And but I really enjoyed like getting more of that
The personal stuff. Yeah.
slice of life, personal stuff before that war ever came. Seeing a younger Achilles was so fascinating.
Yeah.
Just loved that book. She's
Yeah.
not published a lot, right? Just
No,
Cersei?
actually, I liked it so much
Two.
that I want to drive over the border
Yeah.
and get the Barnes and Noble like
Yes.
special.
Oh,
like, the
yeah,
edition.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
so sexy, and yeah. I've been collecting a few of those.
Oh, he's about to pull it out.
where is it?
Uh-oh.
Where is it?
Oh, you have one, you jerk.
Oh, did
Yeah.
I lose it? Yeah. Oh yeah,
It's
and it's
Oh.
cheap. Yeah, it was.
yeah. Like
it's
if I'm
not
gonna own
expensive.
one, like I want that one. Yeah.
Naked hardbacks are the way to go. Why don't more publishers do that? Like I enjoy reading from them so much,
Yeah.
and they're so elegant. Whereas hardcovers with
Yeah.
slipcovers, like
Yeah.
I either have to take it off and
They're
see
not
the
sexy
ugly.
while you read them.
Yeah,
That
like
one is. Yeah.
like if you take them off, then you're just looking at the blank cardboard usually of the normal hardcover. Like
And then you're like, where do I put the dust
Yeah.
jacket so I don't like wreck it or fold it? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know?
But I like seeing the cover art when I put a book down or I'm see it like resting somewhere. So I'll read it sometimes with
The
the
nice
cover
thing
on.
about the
Yeah.
dust jacket is if you pull a nice book off the shelf, you can take the dust jacket off and slide
Dust
it back
jacket, yeah.
in, so it looks like it's still there while you're reading it. And then you
Oh,
don't
I've
have
never.
that ugly space left, you know?
Oh, I always just move random books into the empty spots, but that's a
Yeah,
great tip.
slide it
a
right
great
back
tip.
in, and it'll look nice still. Yeah.
Nice.
That's good.
No, this is a beautiful book and nice edition too, because
Yeah.
not expensive, but yeah, very nice.
Good
But I gotta
quality
give
for the price, yeah.
Cersei a read because I love this one so much.
Yeah, I've done the opposite. I've read Cersei, but I haven't read Song of
Oh,
Achilles.
did you
But
enjoy it?
I
Cersei's-
haven't read
yeah,
either.
Cersei's great. Yeah, I mean the
Okay.
writing is just stupendous.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
so impressed. I don't know what I was
Yeah,
expecting. I don't want to shit on, I was just it was so much better than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, it kind of became popular like in circles that are not our circles, like
Right.
book talk and
yeah.
like young adult circles and
I mean,
things.
really,
Yeah.
Song of Achilles is a romance. Like it's a
Yeah.
thorough romance book. And I was just like, well, that's not my jam. But then I was like, well, I'm Greek, so like, why not?
All right.
But it was awesome. It was very well done.
Here I've been telling everybody you're Canadian.
Yeah, it's a blurred line. Depends on what day it is, what suits me best at the moment. Sometimes I'm kind of American because I'm so close to the border. It's whatever gets me by,
I love this here.
Oh yeah, so she didn't have to
Styrofoam
actually
block.
transport. She didn't have to transport the heavy books.
Yeah, that's smart.
Oh god, moving
Very-
with as a book collector is awful.
Yeah.
When I moved into this house, packing up my books was like my wife was just irritated because it took 2 trips of fully filling up a minivan with just boxes of books. And she's like, seriously? And I was just like, what do you want me to do? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not just gonna leave them at the old house. This is an investment.
And you always overpack books in a box too. Like you can always fit more than you can carry comfortably.
Yes.
because they're so heavy. Yeah.
It was one of my wildest live shows ever was me packing up my books with Nico. I just stuck him in front of the camera. I was like, you run the camera. And I'm like running around. Just-
Yeah, it's like
awful.
playing Tetris. You got to get the perfect size into the book and into the box.
Josh, if you ever move house, you're screwed, man.
I'm
many-
here I'm here till retirement probably.
Good, good.
Because yeah, same deal. It's like
How many shelves do you have?
I have 5 in this room, and then I have 1 in the room I have 6 in this room, the one here you can't see on the videos. 5 on this wall, 1 in the other room, and I'm about 6 books away from needing another shelf.
Yep, that's
Each
right.
one of
I have all my
those
TBR
wisely.
stuff in the closet. So
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
a couple shelves in the other rooms as well. So this is just one, and then I have another one kind of on that side that's smaller, but a couple wraparound ones in the bedroom as well. But
IKEA is about to get 800 of my dollars, at least.
yeah, my shelves are IKEA's as well. They're great.
I
They
need to
were-
get them because
they were so out of stock for so long, it was driving me nuts. Like I could not find just like a white IKEA shelf to save a life. Like I just couldn't do it. It was so annoying.
Nikki, that's why you pay somebody to do it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife said if we ever have to move again, she is paying somebody. She doesn't care what it
Same with
costs.
that. I'm gonna do that too. Never again will I do it myself.
No, definitely. Yeah, those are the ones I have as well. These 5 are Billy bookcases. This one's different.
They're
Actually,
great.
the one in my other room is different too, but the ones on my wall. But
Yeah.
yeah,
We
Josh,
should
those are-
start calling Patreons, toss a coin to your booktuber.
Brilliant.
Sponsor a bookshelf. Sponsor a
Yeah,
bookshelf.
sponsor a shelf.
There we go.
That way we can all
That's-
upgrade our shelving.
I don't know
Like
if you've ever seen. Have you seen Brian Lee Durfee's? It's an older one where he did his bookshelf tour.
yeah.
Oh my
He has the full room, but then he has even more books like downstairs in his house.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that guy
He has stacks
probably
on
has the most
floor,
out of
yeah.
all of us.
Yeah, his book hauls were always stupendous. Like he would get whole sets of like back catalogs at a time from eBay, and it was glorious.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he has he has his fiction upstairs and his nonfiction downstairs or something like that. But
Crazy.
Too many books. But he also reads insanely fast.
Oh my god.
I mean, he
Yeah.
does. Yeah. His monthly wrap ups, it's usually like 20, 25 books.
Yeah,
said he
he
can
says
read,
he can
what,
read
couple
about a
hundred-
book a day.
Yeah, a book a day, like in an afternoon. Yeah. Couple
And
hundred
yeah,
pages.
in the afternoon he reads like 100 to 200 pages an hour.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because I always thought I was a fast reader. I read probably 50, 60 pages an hour. But
Yeah,
like 100 or more,
Yeah.
that's like, what?
Yeah.
See, I don't read fast. I just read a long time
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
because I probably average around 40 to 50 pages an hour.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to get Durfee on the show. I'm sure he'd be a lot of fun. Absolutely. I have a plan, like eventually, just with all of these, like I'm doing my monthly TBRs and then I'm doing these, is like I want to get every single booktuber on the channel at some point. So
That's going to be a task.
yeah, it'll take a while, especially because I already follow like 150 of them.
I've got about 200 that I'm subscribed to.
Yeah. It's well, and more pop up every day. Like Ben, you were talking about what the class of 2022 booktubers, like like all of that
23,
crew.
23, yeah.
23, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like it's crazy.
It's great. It's great getting new people
Class of
around.
2021. I've almost been doing this going on 2.5 years now.
I'm
Yeah, I
about
started-
I'm about to hit my 1 year birthday.
2021. Yeah, I was 2021 as well. Yeah.
When is your 1 year, Ben?
I gotta actually look back at that to see, but I started last summer, I think in
Nice.
August.
Nice.
So, yeah,
Mine was April. Yeah. Cool.
got to do that birthday book tab. Book tag. I just saw Alan do it. That'll
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
a nice video to try. But Josh, I was just curious because you said you were reading lots of fantasy in the 80s, and like my
Yeah.
biggest gap now, like I've been trying to catch up on all the 2000s stuff,
Yeah.
and by far my biggest gap is like between Tolkien and like the 90s. So like anything.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of older sci-fi maybe from the 50s, 60s, but fantasy from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, things like Zelazny, Danny Wirtz, Feist, like Tad Williams, lots of ones I'm interested to see. Like I'm curious, have you done a lot of those big ones from that like time period, or any that you would really
I have,
recommend for
yeah,
us modern fantasy fans?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to do a video on that at some point because I think I've read a lot more of that, then like it seems like a lot of booktubers really are up on the modern stuff and not that as much. And I think a lot of times, even especially the 80s, I think that people just poo-poo what was going on in the 80s unfairly, because it was a little more tropey than nowadays, and it wasn't the author's fault, but it seemed like all of the authors that were at the time, if they wanted to get published, they had to embrace the tropes because that's what the publishers wanted. But most of them, after they establish themselves, go a different direction. Like you see even Terry Brooks, who, I mean, sort of Shannara, I mean, is about as blatant a Tolkien clone as you can get, but he starts going a different direction by the second book. Like Feist in Magician, I mean, he didn't even wait to get through the first book. He starts, cutting new ground in the middle of that book. So I think a lot of times the 80s stuff is unfairly maligned as far as fantasy fans are concerned, because there were a lot of good going on. Unfortunately, some of them, never got past the formulaic stuff, like David Eddings, who's actually I'm still a fan. I loved the Belgariad. The rest of his stuff was the Belgariad again and again and again, but he could still create memorable characters that you enjoy, and I kind of love a lot of that. But it's really it's really unfortunate that I think a lot of them get lumped together from that time. But Andrew and I both like Feist. I mean, you've heard us talk about Daughter of the Empire, at least in that series, is fantastic.
Have you gone through like all of that Riftware saga? Because I see like it commonly, if I try to look at forums about it online, like I'll see overwhelmingly that people recommend just reading like the first few Feist trilogies.
It seems like at least on Reddit, like everyone says that early Feist is the best Feist, but also, I mean, I don't know, just the name Magician's End, I want to get there. Just because of the bookends of the two grand series. I mean, Andrew, have you read the full scope of it?
I have not. I'm working my way through the Empire trilogy right now, which is the first 6 books, and then I'll continue on through the series. For me right now, currently, there's some confusion on where to progress next, because there were some like PC games from the 90s that got novelizations.
Yeah.
And I don't know where those fit in, or if it's like part of the series that I'm supposed to read. And so there's just some weird stuff in Feist's catalog and how it kind of fits in and where I'm supposed to read them that I'm still trying to figure out. So I'm going to focus out the I lost my train of thought. I'm going to focus out the Empire trilogy and then see where to go from there. But I started as a backlist fantasy channel.
Yeah.
With Jordan and Robin Hobb, and then like I just kind of morphed into this self-pub consumer of all things indie. But I still try and fit in some backlist stuff. I just recently started reading James Barclay, who's the 90s. He's right at the end of the 90s. Dawn Thief is it's an interesting read. It's got one foot in the old world kind of fantasy of like heroics, the heroic era, and then it's got one foot in the modern, and it just kind of, I won't say it successfully bridges them, but it does it in an interesting way. But
the only
on.
I've seen Dominish Books. He has a good video about the whole Rift War cycle. He's
read them all.
Read it all. I actually on Feist's website, they have a list of all the series and then which are non-essential and so forth. That was helpful. I can share with you guys. I have a spreadsheet of all the Feist books and like 3 different reading orders. There's like a chronological, there's a publication, and then chronological, and then there's like sort of by series. I did some research on that one there, but I'm going to make my way through it just gradually. I'll probably reread. I have the 2 books they call Krondor's Sons, which are like the next one, Prince of the Blood and the King's.
I think that's what's next after.
Yeah, that's kind of the next one after Empire. So I'm going to get to those, but I think they're solid. I mean, we'll see how far we go in here. Like Nikki said, it went down off the Nighthawk trilogy, but that seems to be I mean, people seem to enjoy the early ones the most, but I'll find out for myself for sure.
Diving into a giant backlist series like that, like it has a great appeal to me. Like if I get into it and love it, like it's all there, and there's so many books to dive into. But like it's interesting to see Andrew kind of morph into more of reading all like new releases and self-pub, and Dominish Books too has kind of become a similar channel. Like I'm just started to.
Me and Dom started at the same time. I think
wow.
my channel's about a month older than Dom's.
It's fascinating because like the self-pub scene is pretty intimidating for me. Just because there's so much, and because a lot of them have so few readers, that especially like people that I follow have been following, that it can feel like, you know, I just have to just take the plunge and read randomly almost. And it's great that some people just do. Like Andrew is one of the first reviewers on so many self-pub books that I see on Goodreads and put on my TBR. And so like at least now I can know, you know, someone I follow and understand like what their approach is reviewed it, which is a big help.
It was not an intentional shift. It just kind of happened that way.
And you like this, you're reading based on just, this is what you're in the mood for and what you tend to be just loving now. Like is there like an overarching, like kind of different feel or stylistic difference compared to like a lot of the trad pub that you've been sensing? Because you've read so many now.
The big difference is what you're going to get structurally in indie, as well as ideas and thematically. A lot of that stuff gets filtered out of trad pub because the publishing houses aren't willing to invest in them yet. They need to be proven first. That's why you see like Travis Baldry with the cozy fantasy and stuff like that. Like they'll let it go to indie first, and if it gets successful, then the trad pub houses will come in and back that and pick up those books, which you're seeing Orbit do this a whole lot. So you're going to get a lot more interesting ideas, and you're going to get some more subgenres versus than what you'll find in trad pub. Like I can't think of a whole lot, if any, trad pubs that are like fantasy westerns. I can't think of any other than the Dark Tower, and the Dark Tower is just a catch-all for everything. So just the fact that it happens to have a western setting while being fantasy is just, that's because it's horror, thriller, fantasy, sci-fi. It's everything.
Everything.
Like this is like a subgenre I'm not too familiar with in trad pub. It's like historical fantasy taking place in a version of Britain, but very much a fantastical version where there's lots of magic around. And so it's, there's not a lot of trad pub that I can think of that is that really.
It's got shapeshifters, it's got druids, it's got politics, it's got coming of age, it's got combat. Trad pub likes their tried and true. They're going to invest their money on something that they think is going to sell, which means it's got to check some boxes. They take the occasional risk, but like, I mean, even with the Sun Eater series, the first book was very formulaic, where it was very identifiable as Red Rising, Farseer, Gladiator, Dune. Like there were certain similarities.
Before he could really do his own thing. Before he could do his own thing. Robert Jordan, Will of Time, same thing.
Yeah. Barry Tolkien. Which, I mean, whatever. But it is what it is. I love how inventive and how unique you're gonna get on indie. Although trad pub is starting to do some things where I'm just like, maybe you're trying to be too much like indie, and you've kind of got it. Like there's I'm not gonna say the full name of the book, but there's like a fantasy romance coming out that has the word yeeted in the title.
I saw that. Yeah.
And I was just like, no, that's such a generational thing. That book's not going to age well. I'm not saying anything about the story. I'm not saying anything about the story, anything about the author, anything about the art. Just that specific word, yeeted.
Yeah. That's Orbit. Yeah. And that's they got an Orbit contract, which is like, what?
Oh, wow. I started
to be an amazing book, but the fact that the title is yeeted, it feels like they're trying to kind of dip into maybe being a little bit more progressive and stuff like that. And I was just kind of like, it was an immediate no for me.
Yeah. I just read the title, and that's a bit of a turnoff.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I first got really soured on trad pub when I thought I read Chronicle of the Unhewn Throne by Brian Staveley. and just I thought this would be a
It's
series
not
for
that
me.
bad. It's just
It was
not that
okay.
good.
I 3-starred all 3 of those books, and it was okay, but it just felt a little bit uninspired to me, and like it was just playing it by the book and not doing anything special. And it make sense that that was a tour trad pub series, and just trying to be a little bit of a grittier Brandon Sanderson for them, but like I've been thinking, like, there's no way that tour was getting that was the best submission that tour got, that out of their hundreds of submissions that they were evaluating around that time, that was the best one. I'm just thinking about all the missed opportunities for other series and authors that didn't get that slot. But yeah, that's the kind of thing you get through Self Pub now, though.
Yeah, Trad Pub's in trouble right now because the more I learn about the Trad Pub process, the more it doesn't make sense for people to go that route anymore. Because it was either last year or the year before that, you found out that most traditional published authors don't even sell like 50 copies, or I think it was a lower number than that. And then when you go even further, a lot of people I know who have Trad Pub, they're doing their own marketing at this point. Unless you're a Brandon Sanderson, unless you're a Robin Hobb, unless you're a George R.R. Martin, unless you're one of those big authors, you do all your own marketing anyway.
Yeah.
So the only thing that you're getting the professional editing, you're getting the money up front, you're getting that stuff, but you're still doing everything that a Trad Pub or a Self Pub person is doing. And so the line is getting blurred to where you see people like Brandon Sanderson coming into the indie market. You see Michael J. Sullivan going from indie to trad back to indie. You're seeing these people leave the traditional space, and because they're doing the work anyway
and getting more of the revenue in the end.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Sanderson, I mean, he's obviously the outlier, but you can see with his own publishing, Self Pub, I mean, the Kickstarter just annihilated kind of the whole publishing world. But I mean, everybody doesn't have the kind of platform of that. But I remember seeing back when Daniel Green put out his first book, because obviously he has a huge YouTube following. He made a pretty good chunk of change and was pretty transparent about all of that. And but it just goes to show he didn't have to pay a marketing team, because he is his marketing team and all of that. So, and I hope that, like Philip Chase, I hope he's doing really well on his book. I would think with his channel that he probably has a pretty good just built-in marketing because of that. Yeah, I've read Way of Edan, which I really enjoyed. I'm waiting till the third one comes out to read the last two.
I haven't started it yet because I haven't been able to get to it.
I also think with Self Pub, so I've read just a few so far, like The Severing Sun by Von Roycroft. But as one of the first readers of that series, and I saw Philip Chase's review, so like if they can get one person with a platform to review, they'll get other people to see it. Yeah. And then I feel like more ownership over the whole like enterprise of the series. Like I can be part of the hype train, getting the book in people's hands. And I definitely don't feel that way with Trad Pub, like that I need to, work to try to get the word out most of the time. Like that's like, they have their own, marketing stuff. But for a lot of indie authors, like they don't have any background in that. They don't have a platform or a YouTube channel like Mike Molman or Von Roycroft. So they're just starting with trying to get word of mouth rolling. And it's cool that we can be a part of, like a major part of that build for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I find the tough part is weeding through, the quality of what you get. Because I know, like,
you have to develop a very quick DNF reflex.
Yeah, it's like the last two Self Pubs I read, I gave 2.5 stars, and I feel bad about it. But I have to be honest in my reviews, or I don't have any credibility for what I'm saying. And I feel bad for that, because like what I'd love to be able to do is like when I read Andy's book, like I love that book and I just gushed about Black Jack because it was amazing. And I want them all to be like that, but unfortunately they're not. And it's kind of tough to weed through that. And I always feel bad if I read a Self Pub where the author reached out to me, whether they gave me their book or not. But even if they haven't, it's just one of those, like, I want to give a good review, but I have to be honest. And it's tough. Real tough.
Yeah, it's not a fun line to walk, because a lot of times if I don't like an indie book, this actually happened with Trials of Ashmount, which I then later came back and ended up loving. I gave it 4.5 stars, but I had a knee-jerk reaction to it that made me walk away from it. But what I did is I sat down John. I didn't really sit down. I messaged John, and I said, hey, based off of what this book is, try this reviewer, this reviewer, this reviewer, this reviewer. And then I was just quiet on what I didn't like. And then he went to those people and they ended up loving the book. And so then it got positive reviews, and then he was able to establish some reader base. And then I came back later and I was just like, yeah, I was wrong. This book's amazing. I was just a fresh parent at the time, and there's a trigger in there for a fresh parent. And I was just like, not for me. But yeah, that can be, you can still help an indie author even if the book isn't for you, if you know people who may enjoy that book.
Yeah, I tried to, because I reviewed one last month and I talked about it. I probably talked more about that book than anything I read last month, the indie book that I read. And I talked about the things that didn't work for me, but I tried to make sure I highlighted the things that did work, and also mention that, my opinion's mine. You may like that. Like the one I read this month that I'll talk about in my next wrap up. It was one of those, just the writing style just didn't work for me. It was actually too fast paced for my taste, but someone else might like it. So even though my rating might be low, I try to at least highlight those things, because I do want to be more supportive if I can. I mean, these are people chasing their dreams, and art is subjective. So, I could be wrong,
And sometimes, like Andy, it can be fun to see a book that you recommend to people take off, because he reached out to me to offer me Blackjack, and I said no initially. And then he offered me the audio, and I was just like, oh, okay, I can get through an audio real quick, and I ended up loving it. And now he's in trouble because he only ever really intended to write Blackjack, and now he's done novella. He's writing another trilogy. Yeah. So like whenever I ask him, I was just like, oh, hey, how's writing going? I just get an FU. And then we carry on. It's just this kind of playful jab. It's a lot of fun.
I want to read a lot more self-pub. I have Von Roycroft's book too. I got some other really interesting ones too that are like very intriguing. Self-pub is a gap in my reading, and I'm definitely going to rectify that soon. I'm going to start fitting them in as I go, because I've got a backlog of self-pub.
Well, if you need recommendations, you can always hit me up.
Yeah, I honestly, I watch a lot of them came from your reviews, to be honest with you. Because
what was that one for that you loved, that you hated the cover of? But I actually liked the cover. But it was like an ocean theme. It was a very stylized cover with like a big person's face with a scar, and you were just like bashing the cover but loving the book. That one, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually really like that cover.
I like the cover after having read the book, but if I was to walk by this in a store,
there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way I'd pick this up.
But you love the story.
It's an amazing book. But yeah,
what is that one about? I think that's one I put on my list after you talked about it, and I was like, I would never have chosen this.
Yeah, so there's multiple POVs in here. Okay. So you've kind of got this nomadic sea or river-based like people.
Okay.
And then you've got this group of knights, and you get to analyze the conflict between them. And then it's also got a really interesting magic system that's elevation based. So depending on what elevation you're on, depends on how much magic you can draw in. So if you're gonna there's a mage who gets imprisoned on the top of a mountain because there's very little mana to draw from the top of a mountain. So they think that it's a great place to like get rid of mages who have, done war crimes and stuff like that, instead of just killing them outright. It's like the fitting punishment. So you're following multiple people as they're kind of engaging in politics and warfare. And there's, some people who like the ocean-faring people, they're warriors, but they don't like relish fighting. And one of your main characters, this guy in particular, I forget his name. I think it's Sig. Yeah, it's Sig. Sig, he kind of relishes the thrill of battle, and so you got to get to analyze his thought process as he tries to process from a cultural perspective, why am I the way that I am? So it's a great book. It's hard to talk about in detail just because I think don't I have a review for that one up?
Yeah.
I've heard you talk
I've
about
read
it at
about
some
200
point, yeah.
books. I've read about 200 books.
It's part of a series, or the rest is to come, right?
So, question mark.
Okay.
It's the first book in the Fish Gut Guard,
Right.
but I think the author's life circumstances changed, and so it's currently on hold. Or he's
Does it
writing
work as a standalone? Is it okay?
Yeah, it fairly works as a standalone.
Good to know.
There's like an end section where a bunch of people start to go off to do something else, but if you don't read that last chapter, then it's pretty much a standalone. It's one of those ones where it doesn't leave a whole lot of hanging threads unless you finish the book.
Right.
Air quotes. But yeah, I liked it.
Cool.
Like that little touch with the magic system really intrigues me. Like I love when there's a new creative bit with magic use in books. I was just so intrigued with the Jade stuff going on in Greenbun Saga, and just things like what you just said about the elevation based and like the things you could do with that. Like immediately, I'm hooked. Like I've heard about the Rune Lord's magic system too, and that sounds
all about that.
That sounds so intriguing. Where you like people can take a particular trait away from someone and strengthen that trait in themselves. And then they have to
that might be where Sanderson got the investiture from. I'm blanking on names.
But I love the idea of like that a bunch of people voluntarily decide to blind themselves to give up their sight, to a noble to strengthen that noble's like eyesight, and then the noble has to like take care of them and make sure they don't die or else they lose that extra power. Like that is such a cool idea and premise. Like I really want to try the Rune Lords for that reason.
Yeah, Sanderson I think studied under David Harland.
The breaths from Warbreaker, it makes sense. Yeah, that's exactly similar mechanic. Yeah.
I wanted to say Warlord, and I knew that was wrong. I knew it was War something, and so I had to stand up to see what the title was. Because I'm a bad booktuber. I'm a bad Sanderson fan.
Well, I have the 3 premium hardcovers from the Kickstarter. I haven't read any of them yet. Tress and Yumi and So
I didn't like
the new ones you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I have them. They're gorgeous books. I can't wait to read them to put them on the shelf because of they're just gorgeous.
You will not get better value for the cost of these books. Like because they were able to go crazy with their Kickstarter revenue. So just the faux leather naked hardback. Oh,
but the shipping to Canada was insane. Like it was not. It was like more than like the books. It was crazy.
Canadian shipping is ridiculous.
Oh, it's the worst. Actually, within Canada is still terrible, but cross border it's the worst.
But there might be opportunities to pick up these if you're ever, in the U.S. They're available maybe to order.
Ship them to a friend's house and then make a border trip.
There is a cross-border like pickup spot where I can get stuff sent that I think I'm going to start using more often. There's fewer of them after the virus and all that stuff, and then lease rates and all that. Like it's hard to find storage places like this that hold packages and stuff. There are fewer, but there's still a few, so that's worth it for sure.
So like, how close to the border are you?
Like an hour.
Oh, that's not.
I'm like 40 minutes from the border, and I'm like, like within an hour, I'll be in the States. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Which state? Which state are you closest to?
Washington. We border Washington.
Oh, you're all the way over there.
I'm West Coast. Yeah.
Yeah, you're all West Coast.
Washington, Oregon, California. That's
because I'm like 2 hours, but Michigan.
Man, it's so nice over there. I once just visited briefly like Banff and Whistler, Canada, and they're so nice. Beautiful places.
Yeah.
I'm being blamed by Chris for 90% of his self-pub TBR.
So I was gonna say that's same with me. Most of it has come from you. And what a sales job, by the way, for self-pub. I mean, what you just said, this whole like I definitely want to get about
Esme as well, because she's an awesome commenter on my channel, and she's like an amazing reviewer on her blog, and just like seeing people reading so much new stuff that's coming out. Yeah,
I think
I don't
Esme
know.
reads almost exclusively self-pub.
I think Esme is 4 people disguised as one because she's everywhere all the time. Like I don't understand how she can read so much, review so much, talks. She's on
Comment,
every
yeah.
video. She's like she's
Yeah.
just the best. Like I think she's 4 people. She's a group
So
of sisters.
for the longest
that
time, I
pretend
thought
they're
that there
Esme.
were 2 Esmes, and there's just one that I know of.
Just one.
And
yeah.
I mean, she's everywhere.
She's everywhere, dude. Yeah. It's
I
crazy.
love it. I love
think
it.
she's only like 24, so she's young. She's got that energy.
Yeah.
But it feels like people like her and Andrew are sort of like the glue in this larger dispersed kind of
Totally.
fandom community that are just it's awesome.
Well, I started self-pub because Daniel Green was doing he was kind of reviewing like sort of Kaigen and stuff like that. And those are kind of like the more known self-pubs. And so I started there, and then I kind of moved to Zach Argyle's Threadlight series, and then from there I kind of moved down into more various other series. I started with like Drew Hayes and the superpowered stuff, and that was kind of very easy to get into. And then it just, once I discovered Kindle Unlimited, it was game over for me.
Yeah.
Like Kindle Unlimited.
Speaking of Kickstarters, that Zach Argyle one, like I backed that, and the value you get for those books, like I've just heard amazing things. They look
like a whole
incredible.
series. Yeah.
I can't wait to get that book. Like that
Yeah.
omnibus. Like, I can't wait.
I bought into that. I haven't read any of it, but I've got the omnibus.
Yeah, I never read them, but I'm like, I think I'm gonna love these. So
Doesn't an omnibus just speak to the collector in us too? Like to have everything in one volume.
Absolutely.
Like
so Andrew, I was going. It's funny. I looked at his website, and this is after I think seeing a couple people talk about it, Kayla as well, and they were gushing. I'm like, this is up my alley, I think, from what I read. And I was going to buy those signed books, but I could only get them shipped from Zach Argyle to the States. So I was looking into that kind of PO box or whatever across the border. And then I was going to do it. I didn't pull the trigger. And literally 2 days later, he announced the Kickstarter. So I just backed that instead. I'm like, sweet.
Just did that instead.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Omnibuses are great.
Too.
Omnibuses are great, but this one is
that's 9 books though.
It's like over 1,200 pages. It's over 1,200 pages. It doesn't have a table of contents for the 10 books.
Really?
Oh no!
Like why not? Why not just? Maybe they couldn't have an extra page printed in here because it's already
mine is.
as thick. Maybe they reached the maximum.
Yeah.
But couldn't
You need the old school science fiction fantasy book club omnibus.
This is just
the
we put a table of contents? Couldn't we put it right
Let me
here
see.
on the title page? Like
I used to have that one, and it annoyed me to high heaven. I need to get back to that series because I liked Nine Princes and Amber.
Oh, those old versions that Josh showed off looked great.
I have this one. This is similar to the one you have.
That's the older version.
So I wonder if this one has it.
So the one I had is the one Theo has, and then you've got the re-release.
Yeah.
And then Josh has the one that ages him.
Yeah, the ones from the 80s.
It literally goes cover to cover, like page 1 to like the last page has dialogue on it. Like literally, How would you even know? You got to just wow. Okay.
But I love having multiple books in one. Like it's such an appeal.
I know Zach is working on an omnibus paperback.
Oh, cool.
I got to see it because apparently I had his wife Bookborn on my channel a couple weeks ago, and she whipped it out and she like showed me the back, and apparently there's a quote from me on the back. So that's very cool. It's very cool. I was incredibly honored.
Yeah.
So I think he's working on it. He's still working on the final dimensions.
Sweet.
That's neat.
Yeah.
And I think all those self-pubs, the one thing that I'm sure appeals to all of them is, just so much editorial control.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't get traditionally. I'm sure that's definitely a draw for all of them.
Well, that kind of draws back to what I was saying earlier, is they can take ideas and run with them a little bit more instead of being censored. And then what Trad likes to do is to see if those ideas take off. And if they take off, then they can swoop in, pick up the book, and then start promoting similar books to it as well.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, with Travis Baldree, that was a cozy fantasy. Cozy fantasy wasn't really a trad thing that I'm aware of. I could be completely wrong. But now you'll start seeing a little bit more cozy fantasy make its way into the trad pub scene.
I think we've all, yeah. I think that's happening for sure.
So they're trying to stay relevant and current with the times, but they still want to make profit.
That's interesting you say that, because that's one that when I read, I was like, I enjoyed it. I think other people would enjoy it, but if I was a trad pub like guy making those decisions, I don't know if I'd choose that one, because I'm like, I don't know. Even though I liked it, even though I know there's a market to it, I'm like, is that what we are going to do, and is there a big enough market?
He just got picked up for 3 more books.
Yeah, like it seemed to have worked.
Wow.
Right? How do you know? So,
and what's crazy is he never even intended to really release it. He just took part in NaNoWriMo.
No way. Is that the story?
Wow.
Yeah, he took part in NaNoWriMo.
That's so
he
funny.
wrote Legends and Lattes, and then like one of his buddies read it and told him he had to self-pub it, and put it out there. And so he just pulled the trigger. He was like, "Why not?" Because he worked in game development, and of course he's a legendary audiobook narrator.
Yeah.
And it absolutely blew up. And it helped that he had so many audiobook fans, because he's done.
Yeah. That's why
I know that.
That's why I wanted. That's why I wanted to read it, because I loved his audio for Cradle, and so that's what got, and the great cover too. There's like all these different things that can really help out, and but yeah, I want to try so much self-pub, and seeing people love them so much, like the Zach Argyle series. It's just too much to read. Like,
too much.
I'm in the middle of a bunch of series, backlist.
I'm currently in the middle of 40 different self-pub series
that
are not finished, that are ongoing, that I'm currently reading.
That's tough. That's tough.
Wade in at your own risk.
Yeah.
There's some great stories though.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know. I've started adopting kind of what Jimmy does, where like I buy the book when it comes out to support the author, but don't read it until the series is done.
Yeah.
And I have that with a couple of the self-pub series that I really want to read. I'm doing that as well. But
actually,
you should read Superpowers by Drew Hayes, because it's done.
Superpower.
Okay.
Don't buy them physically.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I should do that. I should do that more, just because like this is a book 1 by Ed McDonald, Daughter of Redwinter, and I read it when it came out last year and really liked it. But now when book 2 is going to come out later this year, it'll be about a year between my reading, and so like, I don't really love rereading, and you know, that's an opportunity cost of reading something new, and so like, do I reread or do I just dive in and it's not fresh? That's why if I had waited, that would have been better for me. Yeah.
I'm wondering the same thing next year when Stormlight 5 comes out.
I am not rereading Stormlight.
Rereading the first 4 is a crazy amount
put off
of time.
that series when I heard it got bumped, so I'm starting it later next year for 2025 probably. That's
a reread investment.
But I need someone to do one of those summary videos, like I know Daniel Green used to do those, like summarizing a book. Like, hey, can someone do that for the first 4 books?
I love
so I don't
that
have to
Rockio
reread.
does that for his own books. How useful are they?
Oh yeah,
like,
good.
Yeah.
The new versions of Shadows of the Apt have those too, which is another nice little. That's good. I love that. But like with something like Stormlight Archive, there's so many details that he built in to really be seeds that can then pay off later, that like it really pays off for everything to be fresh, even the tiniest little details and minor characters and little throwaway world building things. Like
but man, that's like 4,500 pages to reread those 4 books.
Those are good on reread though. I've reread them leading up to I didn't read them up to Rhythm War. I just did a reread after I read the first 3 after a few months, because I loved them so much. But they were great on reread, so it's a lot. But hopefully, if you like them the first time,
I may be getting the leather-bound Way of Kings, so I might reread that.
I have that one, and I've been waiting to read it. I've been waiting. So soon.
I've come up with this plan because my book hauls are getting ridiculous,
Out of control. Yeah.
and I need to pump the brakes. So what I've been doing is taking my book budget and just buying a couple special editions. And so that way I can't buy books if I have no budget.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know, I'm doing that too. I have limited space and like I'm saving for proper like certain Kickstarters, certain special editions, the Grim Oaks of Faithful in the Fall. I'm like, I've read them,
Ooh.
I'm rereading
gotta
them.
do that.
They're a favorite series. That's what I'm gonna invest in. So I'm being a little more discerning these days by just necessity.
Very wise.
Yeah,
Very wise.
Yeah. Because otherwise, I mean, there's no end, right? I need to buy a different house.
Yeah.
There is no end.
I'll need a new house and a new wife probably if I don't stop. So yeah.
Like I haven't read Dragon Mage by ML
I really want to read
Spicer,
that.
but I have like the paperback, but I don't love the self-pub paperback that she put out. Where is
Yeah.
it?
Well, then I'm glad. I'm
the
sure
highest
you backed the Kickstarter then, didn't you?
Yeah, so I've been sitting on this wanting to read the story, but like this is on very bright white paper, and it love the cover, by the way. And I remember your review, the gushing review. But I've been sitting on this for a couple of years, I think. But then the Kickstarter came out, nice shiny new toy that I want to have. So yeah, wise to save up for things that you know you love, but I just have a good feeling about sometimes that I think I'm gonna love it. So,
Great audiobook as well.
Ooh. And the special edition that she's releasing is going to have a hidden artwork on the edges that if you like do this, you'll see an artwork. So that's really cool too. So yeah, love these new special editions that are just popping up out of the woodwork, but not great for the book budget.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, the thing with indie and printing, they've only got a couple options. And a lot of them aren't good. Yeah. So the hardcover of Dragon Mage is a crapshoot because basically it's got that naked vinyl where it's printed on, and it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous physical copy. However, it's missing
the binding, right?
Yeah, the binding. So you'll notice like there's like a ribbon in most American hardcover books, and that helps pull it together and bind it in. But on that one, it's missing that ribbon. And so literally that 900 pages is only held in by the paper that's glued right here. Mm-hmm. And so on mine, it doesn't happen with all of them, but on mine, it was pulling away. And so when there was a Kickstarter announced, I immediately jumped on it because I wanted to have a quality copy that was going to last.
And you love that story too. I
love that story. I can't wait for book 2.
Ooh, yeah. I will probably read it with that new Kickstarter edition whenever that comes out. But I love hearing the audiobook's great because I love doing books hybrid and immersively. So that is perfect.
And that's one that takes ideas that normally wouldn't get, because I mean, Aram, I think is the main character's name, is incredibly autistic.
Cool.
So it's fantastic. I love it. There's some rough spots. It's not perfect, but overall, it was a fantastic book.
Well, guys, we've been at it a little over 2 hours, so I think we'll wrap things up here so we can get on to our weekends. But I want to thank all of you that came and hung out in the chat and asked us great questions and gave us good directions to kind of spear our talking. But especially I want to thank Andrew and Theo and Ben for hanging out this morning for brunch and book talk. If you're watching us on the replay, drop me a comment below and let me know what you thought. But I think we're going to go ahead and sign off here. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Hope you read some great books. And if you don't already subscribe to all 3 of these guys' channels, please do go check out their content. I had them here because I frequent their channels a lot, and I know that you'll enjoy it as well. So signing off. Take care. Everyone have a great weekend. Read some great books.